Welcome to episode number 34 of Reezy Talks. Today, I have a special treat for you guys. I got my man Joshua Crisp, a young 27-year-old Amazon FBA private label seller. I believe that doesn't quite describe him at all, but today we're going to hear his story of how he went from working minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, into just how long later, Josh?
A little under 40 months, about 37, 38 months.
So he treats it like a baby, 38 months. So it's like a little over 3 years. He went to doing 4 million gross sales a year through his Amazon FBA private label business. And I think he got a bunch of other income streams going on too. How is it going, Josh?
Going good. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, dude, we're glad to have you. First off, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, please smash the like button. If you're listening to this on the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. It helps the show lets the cream rise to the top of the rankings and lets other hustlers find us, because we're just trying to make the world a better place. And today, I promise you, we're going to drop some gems, or at least Josh will. I'll try to provide some more value. But the main star of today's show is Joshua Crisp, a successful Amazon FBA private label seller. And without taking up too much more time on the intro, let's get into it, Josh. What were you doing a little over 3 years ago, and how did you discover Amazon FBA?
So before I started selling on Amazon, I pretty much started out on eBay. I had a minimum wage job. I was making $7.25 an hour. I got 1 year of high school education, so I dropped out at the end of my freshman year, so I couldn't get a good job. So I got a job through a staffing agency. It was called Spartan Staffing, and at the time it was $7.25 an hour. And I hand sorted garbage, trash. It was a recycling plant. So that's pretty much what I did, and I would do anything that I could, go on the internet at the library. I didn't even have a computer at the time, and try to look on forums and look online and watch YouTube to try to find out different avenues to go ahead and make money. And I stumbled upon eBay. So I would go and I would buy Tommy Hilfiger shirts or Ralph Lauren shirts, anything that I could that I thought there was a potential for a markup, to try to flip it and make some money. That way I could move forward. But it didn't feel right. It wasn't fulfilling that itch that I had. So I did that for a while, and I kept looking. And long story short, I came across the Tinderland brothers and Ryan Morin, and they were talking about Amazon. That's when it really took off, about 4 years ago. And that's how I was introduced to the whole concept about private labeling and selling on Amazon. I didn't even know it existed. I knew Amazon was a company, but I didn't know that normal people like me and you could sell on and make money.
Nice. So your very first, you didn't sell on Amazon at all, like how you were selling on eBay? You went straight into private label?
Correct.
Wow. Can you tell us about how you got started in private label? How, like what, I don't know. I don't do private label, so it's kind of alien to me.
Yeah. So like I said, I was selling on eBay. It wasn't fulfilling that itch that I had, and I was making a little bit of money here and there, but it was a lot of work. And I worked midnight shifts, so I would go in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would get off around 3 or 4. So I didn't have much time, and I had to sleep like a vampire, put blacked out sheets over the window. And when I stumbled upon these guys, and they said that they were finding products online and selling them on Amazon, I just thought it was surreal. I said, so, okay, so you can do all this from home or from wherever you're at, your office, and make money. So it was just insane to me. So I just studied and pretty much soaked up every bit of information that I could get off of their YouTube channels or their blogs or podcast. And that's how I dove into it. My first 3 products failed. I failed miserably because I didn't know, even though they were talking about it, they weren't teaching about it. They were kind of promoting their personal brands and whatever type of curriculum or consulting that they were doing. And I didn't have money, and I really didn't know too much about it. So my first 3 private labels failed miserably. I still have them, actually.
Can you share those with us?
Yeah, so actually, I won't say all 3. So the first 2 failed miserably, and I'll show them to you. The third one, once I started to know what I was doing, I started to do the product research, and I found out that there was actually an opportunity. I just had no clue how to introduce it to the market properly. So number 1 was this guy right here. I don't even know what you want to call this. It's like a sticky pad that you put in your car, or you put it in your dashboard to hold change, or your phone. You can put it on the wall and put your phone on it to maybe watch recipes or something while you're cooking. And I just didn't know how to introduce this thing to the market. My whole concept when I started was, okay, I know if I can get something that's small, lightweight, easy to ship, cheap to source, that I could make money, you know. And I seen these guys selling them for $9.99 and they cost 30 cents each. So right away, you know, dollar signs lit up in my eyes, but I didn't understand the entire process to private labeling and introducing a successful product to the market. I didn't know how to market it. I didn't know how to build a brand. I didn't even think that you needed a brand. I was used to eBay. You know, you find stuff, you put it on there, people buy it. I didn't think that you needed a brand. The second product was a car charger. So you see they're both super small, super lightweight. They were both under $1 for me to source. But this thing's like the most saturated item on Amazon. There's people with tens of thousands of reviews, and the margin, by the time you compete with these guys, you know, you're a small person in a field full of giants with that type of a saturated product. So I thought I would get them in there and undercut everybody by, you know, 60 cents and they would sell, but that was not the case. And the third one, it sat for a while, and I kind of had, you know, small, mediocre success with eBay, but I could not make the logistics work. It wasn't profitable with eBay's, you know, your seller fees, and then shipping through USPS. You know, they were getting damaged, and it was my reviews were getting low, and it was just, there was an error there. I couldn't scale it. So I was on the back burner. So once I learned about Amazon and I found out the process and how to take items, put them on there, and use Amazon to structure it, to grow a brand, to market it. I learned about PPC. I was actually able to regenerate that, and now it's actually one of my top 3 successful products. So
nice.
Yeah, one out of the 3.
How many products do you have right now?
I currently have 12. I have 2 different brands, and the main brand, the bread and the butter, has about 7.
Nice. What were the two main major mistakes that you made from those first 2 products? Just way overly saturated niches?
So, man, you know, there's a bunch of mistakes that you can make, and that I made personally. A couple of them right off the bat is I didn't know how to do proper product research. So I was doing like a non-conventional method of research. I would think in my head, what is something that somebody needs? What's something that's lightweight? And then I went to DHgate and I just bought it. Whoever had the cheapest one. I didn't know about quality control. I didn't know about utilizing an inspection company. I didn't know about how to find out if products are patented, or if they're trending, or if they're seasonal. I didn't know how to gauge competitiveness on Amazon. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. I actually thought it was vice versa. When I seen a lot of people had a bunch of reviews, I'm like, man, this guy's got 10,000 reviews. I'm going to make a killing. And I got on there and got crushed.
Yeah, that's funny how you could think one way and then the reality is exactly the opposite.
Most definitely.
So you have 12 products across 2 brands. Once it started to work out for you, what are some of the major things that that you wish you would have known when you first started?
So right off the bat, one of the biggest ones was logistics, knowing how to, you know, properly get product to the fulfillment center and utilize that fulfillment center, you know, kind of to help grow the business. And the other aspect is how to properly contact manufacturers. Like I said, I didn't even know about AliExpress or Alibaba. I'd used DHgate, and I thought I stumbled upon, you know, a hidden gem with DHgate. I didn't know how to contact suppliers. I would just contact 2 or 3 people and try to lowball them. It'd be a 1-sentence thing, you know, hey, this is my name. What's the best price I could get, et cetera. And, you know, the return rate or the response rate was very low. The quality of the products I were getting in the initial start were horrible. Sometimes I would get defective products. Like I said, I didn't know about inspection companies. I didn't know about negotiating. I didn't know about the whole process. So to kind of sum that up, I think that the number one thing is knowing the process. There's more than one way, and more than one way that I failed personally starting out. But the main thing is not properly knowing the process and what consists of the process. Because, you know, a lot of people think, okay, private label, you find a product in China, you send it to Amazon, they send it to you. But there's a lot to go in research, you know, stage 1, which is research, finding out there's no patents, making sure it's not a trending item, make sure that there's no intellectual property, that it's not proprietary, making sure that it's not competitive. That's the first start. Then the second start is contacting your suppliers, making sure that you get a supplier that's not going to screw you over, so to speak, because over there, you got to think about it, man. Over here, we're hustlers. We like to make money. Over there, there's so much people. And in the district in China, everybody's close. And 7 out of 10 suppliers are actually not manufacturers. They're distributors, or what's called trading companies. So if they get stuck with a bad shipment, or a shipment that's, B or C grade, not A grade, they'll get it off on somebody on DH Gate that does not know how to contact an inspection company, or doesn't know the process of manufacturing. So I got stuff that didn't work, especially like this, man. I got probably, out of the 2,000 that I ordered, I've got several hundred that didn't work. I was getting slammed, and then I tried to take them to eBay, and I was getting slammed with 1 stars. People were complaining because I didn't know that process.
So did you, in the end, you just let the car chargers go?
Yeah, at that time, I just kept moving forward. At that time, that third product kind of started to gain traction, and I just left the other. I just kind of chucked it as a loss. And what I tell a lot of people,
huh?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, these things, the good ones, like I've got like 2 or 3 in each car and at home and stuff. But I mean, with bad product, or if you gain product like I did that's not selling, or it's not good on Amazon, you can liquidate that product by going on, Let Go or eBay, or there's different online platforms that you can go and liquidate it for break even, or maybe a small loss. You don't just have to.
Yeah, like sell it to someone who's going to sell it at the flea market or something.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So out of those 12 products that you have, or you said you had 12 products, are you still actively sourcing new products? Is that part of your routine?
So one of my main things, there's 2 key components that I deal with as an entrepreneur. We all have them. Number 1 is time management for me. The other one is I'm a bit of a dilettante, and I struggle with that. And what that is I want to do 15 things at once. I want to do real estate. I want to launch social media agencies. I want to buy and fix homes, rent homes. I want to launch new businesses. I want to do consulting. So what happened is once we broke 7 figures, after reading Tools of Titans, and really learning how to structure your time and how important it is, I was seeing that I wasn't allocating 100% of my time to each individual product or brand. What was happening is I was doing 10 things at once, and 2% was being dispersed to each one, and they weren't flourishing to their highest potential. So I really focused on, building a brand and growing those individual products. So currently I'm at 12, and I'm not currently sourcing. We sourced 1 that is going to be a hit this year for Q4. But once things slow down in February, March of first quarter of next year, I do intend on launching more brands. Pretty much how I structured everything and how I recommend structuring everything is for the long haul, for the longevity, is structuring brands and having products that fall underneath those brands that are semantically relevant, that feed off of each other, that are necessary, or they're giftable items that make sense. You don't want to be the guy on Amazon that's kind of got a flea market store, kind of like eBay. It works with eBay. You can sell 2,000-3,000 different units, different SKUs, and get away with it. But on Amazon, I found that I got more success, and it opened more doors, building brands and then having products fall underneath those brands.
Right, and I understand that for the most part, because I do sell on Amazon, and mostly more so when I started doing Amazon merch, t-shirts, because I do brands for the different style of t-shirts, like a Halloween brand, lung cancer awareness brand, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And what happens when you build products under brands is that Amazon gives you free screen real estate and starts sharing your products with your other customers, so that when they're looking at one product, they get to see the other products. And just, that's amazing right there. Basically free advertisements. And if they happen to be in the same niche, the likeliness that they're going to convert on that is much higher. Not to mention the fact that you build equity in your brand, and that's something that you could sell down the line, not just, a hodgepodge flea market, like you said.
Exactly. So it's a two-way street with what you iterated on, which I really like. And this is the magical part about having a brand, getting the broad category and then listing subcategory or different semantically relevant products is 2 things. Number 1, what's going to happen is if you know how to market it correctly, and you know how to strategically place and order products that are kind of add-ons or variations of your main product, what happens is you're going to show up in the frequently purchased together, frequently bought by section below. So not only is your UPT or your units per transaction going to double or triple, you're going to take up more real estate. And what happens is that's going to increase the amount of sales, the amount of CTR, click-through rates, which is going to boost the A9 algorithm. And then you're going to rank higher for those products. Now, essentially, in a perfect world, you would get your mother, I call it a mother product, so the big product. And then, so let's just say we're selling a microphone. That's the mother product. And then you have a stand. Then you have a filter. Then you have an extension cable. Those are smaller products that will feed off that mother product. So you want to get them in the frequently bought together section. That way your UPT is going to be 2 or 3. And then you can rank those with the same keywords to take up more real estate on that first page where you get all your organic sales. That's part 1 to that phase. While I really like that. Part 2 is if you're already sourcing that mother product, I call it, from the manufacturer, 9 times out of 10, they manufacture key components or products that will go or align with that product. So it's really a two-way street.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that makes a lot of sense. We talked about that a little bit with Matt, basically about how, your relationship is valuable with the supplier, especially one that's consistently delivering you quality product to where, you trust them. You don't really have to shop around. Sure, you could save a little bit of money, but how much time is that going to take? And can you trust that new supplier? Because it doesn't always work out, right? You might have an inspection go down and it's just not good. So definitely that's a good point. What kind of software do you use to do the job?
So in reference to software, I'll start out in one area and then I'll move on. With product research, we talked about the non-conventional and conventional way. What I consider conventional method of product research is utilizing a software. Now, there's Amazow, there's Unicorn Smasher, there's Jungle Scout. There's tons of softwares, and there's going to be more softwares coming out with the increase of popularity in Amazon. What I currently use is Greg Mercer's software. It is Jungle Scout. A lot of you guys know of Jungle Scout. They're pretty much the grandfather. After trying a couple different ones, this one seemed to be the most relevant and most accurate. I tested it with my own data.
Do you use the web one or just the extension?
Yes, I use them both together, and I use them for different parts of product research. I know some people use just the Chrome extension. Some people use just the web. I use both of them. So with the web app is nice. Not only do you have the product tracker once you find products that can track analytics and metrics for daily sales, average sales, all that good stuff, but it has what's called the product database. So the reason why I like the product database is because you're basically reverse engineering a search within Jungle Scout. So it has a list of filters that you can play with: your price, your listing quality score, your BSR ranking, weight, size, any metrics that you want to apply. And you can apply those metrics and those filters, and it'll actually populate a search results direct from Amazon's AI. You can pick the categories, anything in correlation with that. So if you want to look in the baby category, you can choose the baby category, and you want to be in a $14 to $29.99 price point. You can pick all that, and it'll populate products in correlation with that. Once you find them and you click on them, you can track them in the web tracker. And then once you're on Amazon's page, you can use that Chrome extension. The way I like the Chrome extension, because what it's going to do is it's going to populate that entire first page. So usually it's typically about 12 results, and it's going to show you the amount of reviews, the amount of daily sales, the net, what they're paying, an estimated fee, what they're netting, etc. And the beautiful thing about that is it's really quick to gauge competition. Like we talked about before, it was funny. I seen that the car chargers had 10,000 reviews. I thought it was awesome. That's actually a red flag that a product is competitive. That's how I gauge the competitiveness of a product, is the BSR for one, and number two, the amount of reviews. So if the BSR is low and they have a bunch of reviews, then it's going to be more competitive. You're going to have more budget for marketing, for giveaways, etc.
Right. Yeah. Along with, of course, how many different people are selling that similar product.
Absolutely.
I know earlier you said we. Do you have a team or what? How many employees do you have?
So I always say we. It started out, it was me and my wife. I pretty much did everything. My wife was still working. That's how we could, maintain our lifestyle. She was still working at the time until I got everything up and running. And then, it was me and her. It was a two-person team. And currently, we actually have 4. If you include myself and my wife, we actually have 2 physical employees, actually stateside. They're not virtual assistants. I utilize virtual assistants throughout the whole process. But just because the different things that we do here and the different businesses that we have here, they kind of multitask. They kind of do, a lot of different things for different companies. So
what kind of stuff do you have the VAs doing?
So the VAs, I have them doing all of the design. So I have a graphic designer. Her name's Robin. She does all of the packaging design. She does anything related to multimedia, anything for social media, banners, anything like that for social media for the different brands. I have some VAs I'm just currently doing. This is kind of a small test. I have VAs who I've given my course to, and I've given my metrics that I like to source. And they're actually starting to source products and give me an Excel sheet at the end of the week with different products. Because that's my goal for 2018 down the road, is to launch more brands and more products. So I have them do that as well. I have websites off to the side of Amazon. All my brands actually have websites. They have their own social medias. So I utilize the VAs to manage the Instagram accounts, the Facebook, the Twitter accounts, contact influencers, link it with White Owl and everything, and to do the postings. Basic stuff that, it's not too hard, but just stuff that takes up time.
What's White Owl?
I'm sorry?
What is White Owl?
Maybe it's White Owl. It's the what it is. It's a program.
Or something?
Yeah, Hootsuite. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of it. Yeah, Hootsuite.
I thought that's what you meant. I was like, White Owl. He's onto some new shit.
Yeah. My bad about that. Yeah.
Yeah. No worries. You don't do it. You don't have to worry about it. So what out of those 12 products that you have, how many units do you keep in stock, or like how large are your supply orders? Can we get some kind of grasp on that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I get that a lot of time because people say, well, man, you have a warehouse and stuff, and we always see all these pallets.
How big is your warehouse?
The warehouse itself is 60,000 square foot. We take up 20,000 square feet. So it's about $1.50 a square foot. So our monthly cost on that is $2,500. It's a lot cheaper than Larry's space.
Yeah.
We're in Indiana, so we're about 2 hours outside of Chicago. Yeah. So real estate in general, commercial as well, is very, very, very inexpensive when you get closer to Chicago and Detroit.
That's one thing I like to point out to people, that that's a benefit for people that live, in the middle of the United States, or, you don't live, some people might not know that they have that, that they have a huge benefit, they have an advantage where they live. If realty is cheaper, you can do the same thing other people are doing in California or New York, but it's going to be about 60% cheaper.
Absolutely. So that's what a lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of belief, and there's a lot of, belief patterns that people have. They see you have a warehouse, they're like, how can you make money doing this? And then they get nervous. Do you need a warehouse? So I'll answer that. You don't need a warehouse to do FBA. You don't even have to touch any product. The reason why I have the warehouse is because the warehouse is so inexpensive to have. The commercial real estate is so inexpensive to have, and it kind of goes hand in hand with our other businesses. So like I said, all of our brands have their own e-commerce platforms, and we don't drop ship. Once we gained barrier of entry and it started to gain velocity and traction, we stopped that method and we directly ship from our facility. Also, we don't maintain any storage costs that we don't need from Amazon's logistics center. Another thing is a competitive advantage.
So you're not utilizing FBA, or you are?
I am utilizing FBA, but I only have the amount of products that I know are going to sell each and every month. That way, my FBA costs are bare minimum. So what I do is I know, after you get about 3 to 6 months worth of data, especially a calendar year, you have a calendar year of data, you know exactly how much your products are going to sell throughout the year. Maybe in Q4 it's going to spike. You know how to generate an estimate for that. So I do shipments bi-weekly and monthly. That way I only keep bare necessity, what's in their facility. It's a lot cheaper for me to warehouse it here at our facility. Plus the competitive advantage, a couple of my products are in a very, very competitive niche. And one of my advantages, sometimes I do 10X, we project to do a little bit over $1 million fourth quarter in an 8-week period with one of our top brands alone. Because what happens is the Chinese holiday, come middle of December to the second week in January, they're gone. And what happens is you only have so much money to source these products. And then even if you have the money to source the products, what happens is it takes 5 weeks, especially if you're shipping by sea. If you're not shipping express or shipping by air, it's going to take several weeks. So one of my competitive advantages is the logistics center, the Amazon fulfillment centers in Joliet. It's about an hour and a half away.
Nice.
So in fourth quarter, when everybody runs out, I just dominate. I raise my price 20, 30%. And if I run out of product, or I see that I'm going to gauge or run out of product, I can get shipment there, you know, within 2 days, within 48 hours. So that's another competitive advantage.
So how long is the Chinese New Year? Is it 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah, you know, the holiday itself, it's the middle of December to about the first week to 10 days into January. But sometimes they take a couple days before, a couple days afterward. And this is something I didn't know when I started. You know, I ran out of product and I'm calling them. They don't pick the phone up. They don't answer an email. They won't Twitter respond, nothing. They just fall off the end of the into the earth.
Am I correct in saying that a lot of the times the factories hire entirely new workers, like people don't come back to their same job after then? So then there's a delay, even though they're back, it's still a delay in getting production back to speed.
Absolutely. What happens is it's like a locomotive that backs up. So, you know, they have a bunch of outsourced work. They have a bunch of temp employees at the factories. And when they do come back, they're going to have so much orders that, you know, it's just gonna be a mess. You know, there's gonna be a backup. So you want to make sure that's a huge thing. You want to make sure that you understand how much product that you're selling, how much product you're going to sell, how much you forecast on selling, and you can do that, you know, through Camel. You can do that through the Jungle Scout app. You know, and keeping track of all that. That's something that I had problems with in the beginning. You know, just sales and everything. When you start out and you don't know much, you're trying to learn and grow at the same time. And sometimes it's better to just learn and then start and then grow, you know.
Right. Let's back it up real quick to when you first started. How much money did you invest in those first 3 shipments, just so that the people that are listening can understand, you know, if they can afford it, or that maybe, you know, maybe you have a better answer, how much money you recommend someone to have to get started, etc.
All right, sure. So there was a little bit of a time gap in between those 3 products. It kind of started like this. I sourced one, it failed. I just sourced another one, it failed. But, you know, overall, I would say I lost about $2,000 with those initial orders. Here's the thing. What I recommend, you know, and this is kind of a biased opinion. You know, you'll hear a lot of different price points that they recommend, different gurus or different people that private label what they recommend you starting with. There's millions of different products out there at different price points, and there's different methods that different people utilize. So, you know, what I usually recommend people is no less than $1,000. You know, if you can be about 2,500, then that's a good start. Obviously, you're not going to source a $100 product, you know, with 100 MOQ at $2,500. But if you have less than $1,000 at $1,000, you're kind of restricted as to what you can source, as well as marketing. And then what a lot of people have a misconception about is if they budget an amount for sourcing, it's for sourcing only. You have to understand that if you're starting out, you need your account. You know, you need to create an entity. You have to have Jungle Scout if you don't have Jungle Scout, or whatever, you know, product research tool that you utilize. You, of course, have to have the funds to process and order the material or the product. But once it gains there, you have to have a budget for marketing. That's how you're going to rank the product, through giveaways, through PPC, through online marketing, etc.
What type of giveaway service do you use, or do you run it manually, or how do you do that?
So I kind of use 2 different methods in correlation. So I utilize the actual product giveaway off of Amazon that Amazon runs, and then I also use on Jungle Scout. If you have JumpSend, JumpSend is made by Jungle Scout by Greg Mercer and them, and what it is, it's an email automation tool. But they have another side of the platform that's kind of like a discounted, I don't know how you call it, like a discounted site, a discount site. And what it is Amazon sellers, when they launch their products, they go on there and they put 50% off or 70% off, and it'll take a link directly to that product. So I utilize both of those in correlation. What's nice with the JumpSend,
what was the Amazon one you were saying? I never heard about that.
it's just a giveaway directly off Amazon. So once you launch your product, you'll see actually on the product page at the bottom, if you scroll down, it'll say start a giveaway, and it's through Amazon. That's the only giveaway. See, what happens is you used to be able to give product away in exchange for a review, but now Amazon's TOS, or terms of services, won't allow you to incentivize for a review, ask for a review, or anything like that. You can't substitute or give a product for a review. The only way that you can, compliant with TOS is through Amazon's giveaway. So
Does
you
the
can do that.
giveaway kickstart your sales rank?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's over
Okay, so
200 different.
you can still rank, you can still get on the algorithm and get your rank up through the giveaways, just not getting reviews also.
So what the review basically is it kind of kills two birds with one stone. So what the giveaway is going to do is it's going to spike the BSR because it actually counts as a conversion. It doesn't look in the algorithm as, okay, this is a giveaway. It actually looks as a sale because you're purchasing the product yourself. So if you're listing it, if your cost to Amazon is $14, you're actually substituting that. So you're paying the price. So the algorithm looks at it as a conversion. So your BSR rank is going to increase, or should I say lower, which is going to spike you in the algorithm and move you closer towards the first page. But everybody that participates in giveaways, they know that the reason you're losing your butt is because you need reviews. So it's kind of like a scratch back situation. So you give the product away, your BSR lowers, and then you get reviews. And those are two huge factors, not only with social proof, but with spiking the algorithm to get better placement. That's the whole goal when you launch a product, is to get your product to the first page as fast as possible. That's where all the conversions are at.
Now, when you say first page, do you mean first page for the keywords that you're trying to rank for, or do you mean for the category that you have the product listed in?
So pretty much both, and you can do both simultaneously. So what happens is there's on page and there's off page. So on your off page, when you're creating your product, there's a list of keywords section where you can put your keywords. That in correlation with your title, your heading, your bullet points, all of that is going to show Amazon the keywords that you're trying to rank for. So the category, so for instance, let's just say a flashlight's what you're trying to rank, and the main category is a flashlight, but you have it under a subcategory, and it's flashlight accessories. If you have these different keywords on your on page and your off page, you can rank for both of them simultaneously, if that makes sense.
So on page, you mean on the actual page where the customer can see it, and off page, you mean on the back end, right?
Correct.
Right. And so if you've never listed a product, like not listed a product, but made a listing, then you don't know, but there's a keyword line in there and you can stuff it full of keywords. I think, what is it? Is it 250 characters?
Yes.
I think it used to be a lot more. Now it's only 250 characters. And that is essentially how your customers find your product. If you want to see, to make sure that you are ranking for a certain keyword, you can actually search, I believe, your ASIN and then plus the keyword. Is this correct, Josh? And then you'll see if your unit comes up, and then you're like, okay, it's indexed for that keyword. Now you just got to get to work and then make sure that it starts actually showing up when customers search for that keyword.
Yeah, you can
go ahead.
Sorry about that.
No,
you can actually do the keyword in quotation plus the ASIN as well. There's two different variations, but that works as well.
Nice. Can you give us a run through what your average day is like?
Average day in reference to what I do, or in reference to sales?
Let's just an average day of Josh Crisp, the entrepreneur.
All right, so let's see. It's a little hectic. So I have two kids. I have a 3-year-old and I have a 9-year-old. So school starts the day off. I come to the office, and pretty much right now we're in Q4, so everything's nuts. The main thing is I want to make sure that we forecast what we're going to need for inventory wise. We check numbers. We make sure that everything's moving good. In Q4 and really throughout the month, you want to check your campaigns and you want to check your ACOS, see where that's at. You want to keep track of your different campaigns, make sure that the budgets are being spent adequately or sufficiently.
Do you use any software to monitor these or to check them, or do you use spreadsheets, or are you just checking it and you remember it each time?
So I use a combination. Each platform that you use, whether it be Google AdWords or if you use the PPC within AMS or within Seller Central, it'll actually show you a breakdown. And then what you can do is you can move those into an Excel spreadsheet if you want to monitor which ones perform better or not. For instance,
are you driving product to your Amazon listings with Google AdWords also?
No, I utilize Google AdWords for the e-commerce sites. So each and every brand that I have actually has a Shopify or a Weebly store.
Nice. Yeah. And those are the you fulfill those orders yourself, right?
Correct.
Yeah, those are those photos that I see of your truck bed full of priority packages, right?
Yeah, that's what that was. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. So you have so you have one Shopify for each brand?
Yeah, actually, I have two brands. I have a Weebly for one, and I have a Shopify for the other. For no weird specific reason, I just wanted to try the two.
Which one
Shopify
do
has
you
been
like
around for
better?
a while. Each one has its own pros and its own cons. So in reference to building the store out and making the store look nice aesthetically as well as for SEO purposes, I like Weebly better. But in reference to the tools, Shopify's tools are very powerful because it's been around for a while and a lot of people use them. So there's a lot of powerful tools on Shopify.
What percentage of your sales are coming through the e-commerce platforms versus Amazon?
About 25%.
That's solid, man.
Yeah, so my whole analogy was I have kind of like this, all my eggs are in the basket with this. I've contributed a lot of my funds, a lot of my capital to grow in this business. Like, people see that you do a lot of money in sales and they think that you got millions in the account. What I do is I take a small salary and the rest of the money funnels into growing the business. And, with as aggressive as Jeff Bezos is and Amazon in general, I just always keep it in the back of my mind that you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, especially if you build a multi-million-dollar brand, because what happens if they create their own facility and they manufacture the product, or what happens if they do it themselves overseas and they import it? A lot of people don't understand. They see, okay, it doesn't say sold by Amazon, so Amazon's not selling it. Amazon has over a dozen different private label companies. And I
Right.
made a
And we're not
video
talking about Amazon basics. We're talking about the ones you don't know.
yeah, exactly. So it'll actually be a normal name, like a normal seller brand. And, and they're in some of the biggest, most competitive niches. So I made a video about that and I expose all of them and I show how to find out if it is one or not. But, with that being in mind, I just wanted to build a brand outside of Amazon, because when you have a brand, that's going back to the products. When you launch just a bunch of different products, you might have a toaster oven and then you have, sock warmers, and you're the flea market guy. You really don't have a brand. And then, if it collapses, then you're done for. But if you build a well-established brand where there's residual customers that like your brand because you add value, whether it be price point or whether it be the way that you bundle or your customer service, when you add value, you get residual business. And if Amazon shuts you off, if Amazon was to shut me off today, I have residual customers. I have pixels captured on Facebook and Instagram. I have an email list. I could point them to Shopify in a heartbeat and continue to run my business.
That's awesome, dude. Um, so with your private label business, you got 25% going through the Shopify stores, which is amazing. Your that video you were talking about, I'm definitely going to go check that out. If you guys want to check out that video that Josh was saying, where he exposes Amazon's private label, head over to his YouTube after this video is done. There should be a link down there below. Should be the first or second link down there for you to subscribe to Josh's channel. He's given us some good information, so I would appreciate you guys passing it along, going over to his channel, subscribe, check out some of his videos. I'm sure he's going to be putting out some great content. Is there any people that you follow on the internet, or any like people that you would say are your mentors, people you look up to? Like I really look up to Gary V, and of course a lot of like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, great people. But is there anybody that you look up to specifically?
Yeah, so when I started out, I think one of the most underrated people in the space for Amazon and private label in general is Will and his brother, the Tingelin brothers. They kind of got me kickstarted, and they got me exposed to this, where I gained a bunch of interest. In reference to people that that motivate me, obviously Gary V. If I think he motivates everybody. Being coming from a different country, not having anything, and building something that's insane. I really like Damon John. The Power of Broke is a fantastic book. Just the theory.
Yeah, I read that book also.
Yeah, it's kind of what happened with me, and that's where I came from. So I really resonated with that book.
Damon
Of
is a
course.
hustler, man. He came just selling shirts off the corner when you read that book.
Yep.
And I think that's pretty much all I've ever read about him and his story. I think I read the FUBU story before that, but it's like, he bought a hat. He was like, yo, I could make this. Or he took it to his grandma and she was like, yeah, you can make this. And then, off to the fabric store that night. And then they're sewing it. And soon enough, it's a whole room full of grandmas sewing stuff, and selling hats on the corner, and then made his own like transportation service. That was the gangsterest shit ever.
Yeah, he's a hustler. I just really love anybody who has ambition, who hustles and is really frugal. Starting out, that's the main thing, is you got to be frugal when you're starting out. A lot of people, they start to make some money and they want to spend it right away. So, starting out where he was located in New York, man, he was dirt poor and he made it happen.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a good point, because long before I was really selling full time, I sold part time. And I remember I would be working my 9 to 5, and I would be, besides like my bills, how when your income is fixed and like your checks are the same pretty much, you know how much money you're going to have left over every week or whatever, every paycheck. And I would be daydreaming about what I was going to spend my money on long before I even had it. You know what I mean? And once I became more of an entrepreneur and I learned how to save money and, to forecast and invest and stuff like that, it totally changed everything. But yeah, you got to get away from that mentality where you're spending your money before you make it, because you're never going to go anywhere like that.
Absolutely.
So is there any one main thing you wish, if you could go back in time and tell yourself, if you had 5 minutes to talk to yourself 3 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
Man, probably start sooner. Don't procrastinate. A lot of entrepreneurs, I think a lot of people have the entrepreneurship spirit within, but they lack the drive to go ahead and push forward, and they procrastinate because of that fear. It can be overwhelming when you begin, and that's just the human nature. Whenever you start, and I talk about this all the time, whenever you start something new, whatever it's going to be, if your body and your mind is not used to doing that task, what's going to happen is fear is going to start to resonate with you. So, I think that when you're starting out, going back to just knowing the process, learning the process, loving the process, kind of like what Gary Vee says, what happens is you start to eliminate that fear, make that fear smaller, and it becomes contained, because you eliminate the fear of the unknown. Once you get rid of all the unknowns, like if you're going to make a leap, let's just say this is 2 different hills and you're going to leap in between them. If you don't know if you're going to make it or not, you're going to be scared. You're less likely to make that jump. But if you know the formula, if you know the angle, if you know the trajectory, if you know the wind, and you get into it in depth and you do the formula, and the formula shows you'll make it, then you're going to go ahead and make that leap. So starting out, a lot of people want to rush. They see somebody having success and they rush into things without knowing what to do. So, just studying a lot, reading a lot, watching YouTube a lot, fully understanding, and then getting rid of procrastination, getting over that hurdle.
But mainly, besides having confidence and understanding it, you want to emphasize just start, right?
Correct.
Right. That's what I tell people. I mean, it's not really original when I say this, but fail fast, guys. Fail fast. Like growing up, I'm a skateboarder. I come from skateboarding. When you're trying to learn a new trick, you literally fall 1,000 times, maybe 5,000 times before you finally land something, and you just try it again, try it again, try it again. You don't even really understand why it's not working, but if you keep trying, it'll work eventually. You'll figure it out. And so, mistakes are valuable. You can't get down on yourself. Just make mistakes as fast as possible. Get on to the next one. The more mistakes you make, the closer you are to the success. And don't mind your mistakes at all. As soon as you get over it, I mean, besides learning from it, just forget about it. Don't worry about it. Get on to the next thing.
Actually, a fun fact, I skateboarded for a very long time in my youth until I had surgery. I snapped my patella and I had surgery. That's a fun fact, but not to get off topic. Another huge thing with people, especially in the beginning, and I experienced this so I can speak from it, is overanalyzing. Especially that first product, it's scary. You're going to take money, especially if it's all the money you saved. Maybe you worked all summer, you got a second job. Like you said, a lot of entrepreneurs starting out, they don't make a lot of money. They're on fixed income. They know what they have. So anything they hustle up, that's everything they have. That's everything. So there's a lot of over analyzing in the beginning. I remember starting out earlier. I found a product, and I made a video about this on my YouTube channel as well. I missed $1 million product a year, one product, because I overanalyzed it and I didn't do it. And the next year I was doing product research and I just checked it out, and the things exploded. It was a essential oil diffuser.
Did you have a gut feeling about it and you didn't go with it?
Yeah, I had a gut feeling. I knew it was good. I thought there was going to be value in it. It made a lot of sense. I don't invest in things that I don't have a connection with or that I don't see, fit. I don't invest in stuff, just because of the monetary gain. There kind of has to be a small emotional connection as well. That's just the way I am.
Yeah,
but
it helps you stay about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was going to be a hit, but there just wasn't enough data at the time, and I was scared. I was overanalyzing it. What happens when you start to overanalyze is it's kind of like a pendulum. When you start to overanalyze, the negativity and the negative aspect of the pendulum is always going to outweigh the positive.
Right.
At least in my case.
You got to roll the dice. You got to roll the dice. You want to take some questions from the comments, Josh?
Yeah, let's do it. I told everybody to bring their questions, so
let's do it. Let's see if we get any questions in the YouTube. So, guys, go ahead and put question in all capitals and let us know what you would like Josh to answer while we have him here for at least, another 20 or 30 minutes or so. Are you good for that, Josh?
Oh, yeah, we're good. We're good.
Awesome. Okay, YouTube, now's your chance. Hit us with some questions. What's your profit margin, Josh?
So, a lot of people, when they talk about profit margin, they kind of have a misconception with their products and then their actual net. So I kind of look at it, with the product. So when I'm sourcing products, I like to see a 30 to 50%, usually closer towards 50%. But by the time you account for your overhead, your marketing, any employees, or any type of logistics, storage fees, etc., I like to be in that 25 to 30% range. So that's where I like to be.
Awesome. I had a question myself. So say you launch a product and it fails and you have to liquidate it. What percentage of recoup would you say would be, great?
So it kind of depends on the product. The type of product. Of course, if there's an expiry on it, if it expires or not.
Like what percent? You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, maybe they have to liquidate it, they get 50% back, and they're bummed out. Maybe in that situation, that's actually like a win. You're like, man, you should be happy. Like you bombed your product, but you recouped half your investment. You should be happy.
Yeah, so I would shoot for 70. Sometimes, if you get 70 cents on the dollar, that's a win. As low as 50%, I mean, it's better than a loss. It's better than stagnant inventory sitting, So the key with that is moving it as fast as possible. But I've done 70% in the past.
Great. And how did you liquidate that product? I know you said you were like offer up, let go, just lotting it up to someone else to sell it, or?
Yep. So what happens in my field, if you're a private labeler and you go to source something and it's not profitable or it's a flop, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a lot of the same things. And usually they're going to be white label or gray label, which means that when you're starting out, doesn't mean that you actually have a liquid injection mold or you don't have a logo and printed in. It's just a generic item that you're private labeling through the actual listing. So I would just do like a 60 lot, 100 lot on eBay and try to liquidate it to somebody that goes to flea markets, go on Let It Go or Offer Up, and liquidate it to somebody locally.
Great. Good one. Is there a certain criteria you look at for reviews? Let's say, for example, the top 10 listings, there needs to be at least 5 with less than 50 reviews. That's actually a great question.
All right, yeah. So I'll kind of go through that process. So what I tell a lot of people, and before we dive into it, there's no exact formula where if you can't find a product that meets this criteria, it's going to be a failure. This is just a starting point. A lot of people, they kind of get caught on that metric or that filter that somebody suggests, and then they actually pass up items and they start to overanalyze stuff.
Right. It's all ballpark, right? You slide
Absolutely.
up and down on this or that.
So what I like to kind of see is when I'm running the metrics in the Chrome extension, I like to see the first top 10 or the top 12 have under 100 reviews. to see, another thing that I like to see in correlation
Under
with that
100
is
reviews in total or each?
each.
Okay.
Now, typically, it's going to be very hard to find where you see all 12 are under that 100. But when I can see at least 70% on that out of that 12 are under 100, there's going to be one guy that's going to be at 200, or maybe another guy that's at 300 because he's grandfathered with that niche. But out of that 12 results, if I can see a majority of them under 100 reviews, then that it's relatively uncompetitive, that there's demand but lack of supply. The other main thing that I like to see in correlation with that is I like to make sure that there's at least 10 sales per day. I try to shoot for 10 sales per day at $10 profit each. So that way you'd be at $2,800 to $3,000 a month profit on that, at 30% profit margin.
Nice. Is there anything that scares you away from, besides like super saturated niches? Is there anything that would scare you away from a certain product when you were doing product research?
So it depends at what level you're at in your endeavor. So everybody has a different risk tolerance. When I started, I was scared and I overanalyzed everything. I wanted to find a product where there was no reviews. There was really not a lot of sellers. So I try to keep close to that metric. But now that I'm more experienced, my risk tolerance is a little bit lower. I have more capital to go ahead and invest in risk. I actually look for a little bit more saturated niches.
All right. We were talking with Matt before, who's also a private label seller, and he was saying some of those, just like you were saying, don't adhere so tightly to a set of rules. He was saying that while you want to stay with the rules, sometimes breaking your rules is a good thing if you can still find profit. Like say you don't hit on 2 of the rules, but you meet on the other 3. And then he was like, because that's a barrier to entry, because a lot of people, they won't go that route because it's not classically, within the rules. He's like, I think he said he likes selling larger or heavier items or more expensive items if it fits his other criteria, because he knows that other people aren't going to mess with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the end of the day, it's nice to have, a set of filters or metrics that you follow, kind of guidelines. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to, margin and competitiveness. Are you going to be able to make money? How competitive is it? And just because an item's competitive, that doesn't mean that you can't essentially make money in it. You just have to have an understanding that your product launch is going to require more investment, just more set of resources. So I do that all the time. The main thing that I keep with, it's not really about competitiveness. It's more about fitting my brand. So going back to what we were talking about before, if you're in supplements, or let's just say you're in, moisturizers or whatever you're in, I like to stay to semantically relevant products. So at this point with me, it's not about competitiveness. It's just about, building my brand out. Because what happens is after you're going to be a little bit more frugal when you start. But after you get the ball rolling and your brand is starting to get velocity, what's going to happen is you're going to get those residual customers, and they're going to purchase products off the strength of your brand name.
Right. Awesome. Let's see. I got them over here on Instagram trying to see if we have any questions as well. What's this question you already answered? What's the benefits of Alibaba or your supplier shipping to you instead of straight to FBA? You're just in more control of your supply, right? And you're keeping your FBA costs down.
Right. So that's kind of a unique situation. I could run my business 100% without touching any product. But like I said, we have other brands that we operate out of here. There's other businesses that operates out of here as well. And just for tax purposes, there's a lot of factors that kind of go into it. But you definitely do not need a warehouse. I know sellers that are doing $5 million a year and they don't touch anything. They travel all year round. So you definitely don't need a location. But I do a lot of real estate. We have multiple other businesses where we sell physical products. And then like I mentioned about the cost, keeping the cost low, as well as strategically for Q4 where we ship directly. So for me, it works out best. A lot of people, like I said, they start businesses and they spend unnecessary amount of money. You just have to focus on the grind, embrace the grind, and just keep on contributing to the business and growing.
Awesome. We already spoke about this a little bit, techniques for looking for your first product. Where did your investment for your first product come from? Was that from your 9 to 5 or from your eBay grind or what?
Man, everything. Collecting change in the couch, any money my wife had over after her check, flipping polo shirts, Tommy Hilfiger shirts from Goodwill, Salvation Army, just anywhere
Was
I
your
could
wife on
scrape.
board from the beginning, or was she kind of unsure about this whole private label stuff?
Yeah, so I'm really fortunate. My wife has stood behind me no matter what I've done. I've made some horrible decisions in my past, and she had always had my back no matter what. So you know, she was always positive about it and embraced it, you know, and helped keep me motivated. I mean, when I started out, you don't start out making a couple million, and even if you make a couple million, you're not a millionaire.
Yeah, a lot of
You know,
people
so
don't know that. A lot of people think even my own family, they would contact me and be like, "Yeah, grandson's a millionaire," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." Like, I don't even own a house in California, which is, you need a couple million to do that.
oh yeah, yeah. I was born in Sacramento. I know how that is. We moved here in the recession in '89.
Oh,
Um,
during right before the earthquake happened or after?
I think it was right before.
Right. Yeah, I still remember the '89 earthquake. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was rough. You know, my dad was a contractor, so that went downhill. So we moved back. You know, but in reference with going back to that, you know, I'll kind of hit on something too that's huge is you know, kind of talking about that whole thing about having money and people thinking that you have money and all that good stuff. There's a belief pattern, and what happens is people have to, you know, it's a misconception. It's a huge misconception with entrepreneurship. It's a belief pattern that needs to be broken before you started, because if you don't, you failed before you started. And what this belief pattern is that successful entrepreneurs are lucky, or that it's luck, or they stumbled upon luck, or they got an opportunity that me or you didn't have. It's not like that. It's not all golden glitter. You know, there's a lot of hustle. There's a lot of grind. What differentiates somebody who's going to be successful and a successful entrepreneur and somebody that's not is the willing to grind. You know, the grind sucks in the beginning. You know, all these people that lie and say, I love the grind. The grind sucks. It sucked for me. I remember we barely made ends meet, even after I started to get sales.
Yeah,
You have
top
to
ramen all day.
I'm telling you, you have to fall in love with that hustle. And when you fall in love with that hustle, just like Gary Vee, I love the saying that he says, eat shit for 48 months, eat caviar for the rest of your life. I love that because I've been there. I know how it's been to suck, to be on your computer at 2 o'clock in the morning doing eBay listings, and you've made $200 that month on sales, and it sucks. But once you adapt to that hustle, you love that hustle, you love the process, even though when you're not making any money. When you start to make money, then it's a whole lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. I like to tell people, I'm not rich, but I feel rich because, I could do whatever the hell I want. If I don't want to work today, I don't have to work today. If I want to take a vacation, I can. Not saying actually I can't because family schedule is so gnarly, but I'm not subject to a bunch of, I don't have to, like, if I feel like crap, I don't have to go to work worrying if I'm going to lose my job. If my kids are having an event, I don't have to, miss it because I have to work for someone else. I don't have to always check my bank account and worry about this or that. If I want something within means, I can just get it. And that makes me feel, relatively rich compared to how I was, growing up on food stamps and welfare. I lived in a hotel for like 5 years. So, you can change your lifestyle, and there's a million ways you can do it with the internet. You can do social media, you could become a public figure, you could do public speaking, you can make YouTube videos, you can sell stuff on eBay and Amazon. You could roll that money into private label, you could do wholesale, you could do the options are unlimited. And our parents didn't have that opportunity, our grandparents didn't have that opportunity, and a lot of people are still out here living like, I still hear people that say, oh, internet, that's not for me, or people that think like the internet is a scam, or they think that that you can't make real money on the internet or something. Like, it just blows my mind away how many people don't understand the opportunity that's available to all of us. It's not, there's like nobody holding the keys or whatever. And like, you ever like, I was getting my tires changed and I seen someone come in and fill out an application. They were filling out a job application. And in my head, I was like, this dude is a caveman. He literally might as well walk up in here with a chisel and a hammer and like a stone tablet to fill out a job, because that's crazy to me. Like you're just going to walk in somewhere and fill out a job application. It's 2017. That doesn't even seem right.
Yeah, exactly. The opportunities are endless, especially with online. I mean, we're just blessed to be able to have the opportunity. You know, I don't have a diploma. There's nothing special about me. I always tell everybody when they ask, man, you're lucky, you're killing it, this and that. I tell everybody this. I'm an ordinary guy with an unordinary work ethic. That's all you need.
Yep. I basically say the same thing because usually when people, because I wasn't so vocal about, my success as an entrepreneur and stuff until I started doing the social media thing after I discovered Gary Vee. And so a lot of people are like, "Oh, Reezy, man, you're lucky, you're killing it on social media. You're this, you're that." And I was like, "No, man, I'm just an ordinary guy who spends an extraordinary amount of time on my phone on social media." And really, that's all it really takes. And like, everybody has something amazing, some kind of quality about them that they can share with the world, some kind of value that they can bring to the table. You might not be on camera, maybe you do a podcast, or maybe you're a writer or whatever it is, but you don't have to continue. If you don't have a side hustle in 2017, I'm just going to assume you gave up or you haven't like had the time to check out the internet, because there's something for everybody. And I urge anybody that's watching this, whether you're going to do private label or Amazon or eBay or whatever, just look into the internet, just figure it out. There's so many avenues of opportunity. It's endless. Like I do it all the time. I bump into people, here and there. Maybe I haven't seen them for a few years, or maybe it's just the grocery bagger at the grocery store or whatever. And we just start talking, and I'm just like, dude, I just interrupt people mid sentence. I'm like, bro, you're entertaining or you're interesting, man. You should start a YouTube channel. You should start a podcast. Like, you ever thought about that? And you know what I hear people, they sound like I did like 3 years ago. They're like, yeah, I wanted to start one. I've thought about it. I'm like, dude, just start already, man. Like, well, I got to get a camera. You got a damn camera in your pocket, man. Pull it out, press the button. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's insane. I never thought, I thought I was nuts. You know, everybody was kind of, it was perceived that if you have any type of success, or that you may think that you're doing something that others aren't doing, like maybe selling arbitrage or sourcing or private label or whatever it is. It's like mum's the word. You don't want anybody to find out what you're doing, because they're going to steal, they're going to take money from you. They're going to take food off your spoon.
Right.
But it's totally different. It's totally different now. Like when I started my YouTube channel, I was like, man, this is insane. I'm not telling these people what I'm doing. But once you started to find out more that, about the content, about people sharing, there's so much room. Like I get asked this question probably, I'm telling you, 20 times a week. Is Amazon saturated? And I have like 2 hours worth of content on my channel about this, but Amazon's not saturated. Nothing's saturated. The same thing about real estate. Isn't it tricky? You're buying all these houses and selling all these houses. What if they don't sell? No matter what you do in America or in the world, nothing's ever going to be oversaturated to the point where you can't make money. You just have to be smart. You just have to be smart around it. And even if it does get difficult or it does get semi-saturated, there's always a way to add value. The main thing in whatever you're doing, if it's selling houses, if you're sourcing, if you're selling books, if you're doing private label, if you're doing wholesale, if you can add value, that's the core concept to any business investment. Anything that I do is, how can I add value? Just like Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Jab, Jab, Right Hook. That analogy just resonated with me because it's true. The guy's a genius. I mean, if you can give good value no matter what you're doing, you're going to be all right.
Yeah, the dude is such a genius. I feel like he's going to be remembered on a Walt Disney-esque level because it just makes so much sense. Like just everything he says, it just all makes sense, And the reason I really love Gary Vee is because, and I'm critical. I see people and I just give them the slant eye and I'm just like, let me, figure this guy out. What's he up to? Gary Vee is genuinely doing it to help people. I mean, I know it. The stuff he says is insane, and you know he just made it up right then and there. He surprises himself. He'll say something that's just amazing insight, and he'll just look at the camera or at D-Rock, and he'll be like, "Oh, you like that, huh?" Like, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, he's definitely ahead of his time. He's definitely ahead of his time.
Your little sideways question: what besides making money, do you have any other hobbies, passions, interests?
Oh, let's see. This is a difficult one. So I skateboarded for a very long time until I got hurt. I did some semi-professional paintball. I was really passionate about that. Prior to all this stuff, when I was still in high school, what I really wanted to do is I wanted to go to school for sound production and music engineering. So I love music. I respect a lot of different music. But pretty much, man, all I do is I work 7 days a week, and I get this all the time. Like, if you're successful, why do you work 7 days a week? Why are you putting on your Instagram live that you're the first one in, last one out? And it just boils down to, like I said before, is that I truly enjoy this. I'm passionate about this, and I love this. I didn't starting out. It sucked, but I made it work, and I fell in love with the process. And once you fall in love with the process, I have no problem working 7 days a week. So this is kind of my hobby and my job at the same time, but I truly enjoy it. There's a lot of people that they just want to make a quick buck, or they want to come up with a passive income or supplemental income, and that's fine. You can do that selling online, but the people that really build dynasties, that really build successful brands, they enjoy what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people, you ask them, what do they want to do? Like, they're like, oh, like Gary Vee says this too. He's like, oh, I want to lay on the beach in Jamaica and smoke weed. And we're like, all right, good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah, it would be nice.
It's not going to work out,
nice.
buddy.
Actually, I remember when I
started, never know it nowadays. You might start a crazy vlog like that.
I mean, some people paint a pretty picture, but if you have a family like me and you, we've got kids, we're married. I used to daydream, when I was hustling, I was eating ramen noodles, and we had an uncomfortable bed in a small house. And when we started out, before all of this, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I was engaged at the time. We had our oldest son, and my wife was expecting. We put a shower curtain up in the living room, and that's how we had 2 bedrooms. I didn't have a car, I didn't have a computer. I'd walk to the library, and I always daydream. If this ever makes sense, or if I ever make money, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna travel. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm gonna sleep in. And
right.
The more successful I got, the harder I worked.
That's a major key, man. You gotta be working hard. Yeah, I love that, man, because it's the reality of it, man. It's just not. That's one thing I like to tell people. When you see, people flashing cash, and you see, watch this, watch that, car this, car that, you know what I mean? Your spider sense should be going off, because that's marketing. That's not reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, to a certain consent, like I said today on, I think it was Watch Me Amazon's post, I said, he posted a screenshot of his car. It was his bonus from last year. And I made a comment, said, don't cheat yourself, treat yourself. So to a certain consent, you have to flourish off the fruits of your labors. But
oh yeah,
all these people that are showing all this crazy stuff, man, that's marketing, like you said.
Yeah. You got to, are you talking about his Porsche Cayenne?
Yeah, he just made a post where it showed his Rolex or something. He was just talking about how, he rewards himself based off of doing different, off of having different goals. And that was his bonus, and he treated himself. And then, I just did the pump iron, the arm thing, and said that you have to treat yourself, not cheat yourself. So,
yeah,
I'm going to be honest with you. How much content of Gary Vee's have you watched? Have you ever seen his car or his house?
Nah, that's one thing. He doesn't show his house. I don't even know if he owns a car. I mean, he's always in the passenger seat anyways, usually in the back seat.
Look at Russell Brunson. I love Russell Brunson. See, I was into a lot of internet marketing and stuff, and I still am. I do a lot of search engine optimization, a lot of SEO, a lot of marketing. I like Russell Brunson a lot. He's from Boise, Idaho. I've never seen his car. I've never seen his house. No jewelry. And this guy's doing 20-30 million a year.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not necessary when you're killing it. You don't need those type of things to pass along your passion or your knowledge, or that actually just goes further to illustrate what we were just talking about, which I guess is why you brought it up, is that, like, yeah, when you see that stuff, you should your spider sense should go off. And I'm not, like, for example, I'm gonna throw Ty Lopez under the bus real quick. I like Ty. He's making a lot of money. I'm sure he's super smart and knows a lot of stuff, but he's really good at marketing, which is why you see all his leased cars and his leased mansion, and he has all these hot chicks showing up at his parties or whatever. Those are all either paid models showing up, or it's like Work Trade. They show up at his thing so they can get coverage for their brand or whatever. He just doesn't have 6 hot chicks going out with him to eat dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all marketing. He's an insane smart marketer. You know, he really utilized social media as leverage and people's perception of success. If you read the disclaimers or if you look at any of the background on any of his courses, and I have nothing negative to say about him at all, but he actually hires professionals to teach all of his courses. He sells them with his name. None of his courses are taught by him.
Oh wow, I didn't know that, but I did notice that he has disclaimers. He's like one of the only persons when you see their ads, you know, there's a disclaimer, you know, because I'm sure a lot of us watch a lot of the same stuff on YouTube, so we probably see similar ads, you know what I mean? And it's like, who's the other guy I always see is like, what's his name? Carl, I want to say Carl Kanai or something
Yeah,
like that.
Cali. Hey guys, it's Cali. I was walking
He's
into
like,
my
"Hey
house.
guys, it's Callie Kanai," and he has his hands like this, and he's like, "I'm gonna walk through my house real quick. I'm gonna show you." Like, it's all the same stuff, but his videos don't have a disclaimer on them. Ty must be super duper successful. That's why they hit him with a disclaimer.
Yeah, there's no telling. Even one of the disclaimers I read, it says something about all of Ty's cars are long-term leases, which are a tax advantage or something like that. And who
Yeah, I'm
knows?
sure it is, man. I'm sure it is. I bought my Audi, and man, every time that thing has a problem, I gotta take it into the thing. It's like if it's 250, I'm like excited. I'm like that was cheap, but it's usually like 700. And so that was like, man, I should have just leased a car, man. Put it on the business too. What was I thinking?
Yeah, that's the main thing. And man, I talk about that a little bit on my channel too, man. When I started out, when you start out, you're so focused on growing and trying to make it because you're not making it, you're losing. And what you're doing is you're trying to escape that bear that's chasing you, and the bear being failure. So you're not worried about taxes and legalities and keeping track of everything. When I started out, and that's why I talk about that's something that's super important is creating an entity because look, you don't need a legitimate business to sell on Amazon. You can put your social security in there and they're going to 1099 you. But you need a legitimate entity in order to build and establish a line of credit and a debt to income. That way you can go to the bank and you can do anything. See, I was restricted for years because once I started making money, I'd go to the bank and they're like, hey, you work for yourself? I'm like, yeah, I sell on Amazon. Here's what I'm selling. They're like, do you have a business? Like, well, yeah, I sell on Amazon. So that's a huge thing is a lot of people don't understand. You have to, if you're going to do the entrepreneurship full time, or even if you're going to use it as supplemental income to maybe buy a dream house or put your kids through college or travel or whatever you want to do, if you want to use that as supplemental income or legitimate income, you have to have an entity and you have to classify it. You have to pay taxes. You have to operate like a real business. And that held me back. That held me back for a while.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much money you make on Amazon. The bank does not want to see your bank statements where you're like, well, look, that's where they put the money in, and then again, see, then more money, and like, oh, look, I did a million. Like they don't care. They want to see salary with regularity, like for yourself, for your employees. That's all they want to see. They want to see, you know, your taxes. You know, what did you pay taxes on, etc. You know.
Yeah, even if you pay your 1099, when they 1099 you and you pay it and you have good credit, they don't care. Like you said, they want to see consistency because when you're an entrepreneur, you're looked at as a liability, not an asset. So they want to see 24 months of consistent income, salary, or pay as well as your tax returns.
So we have a question here about real estate. I figured before we go into this question, do you want to like briefly sum up the things that you do outside of Amazon and e-commerce to make money?
Yeah, we can kind of hit that. Man, I'm sorry. I know it's been bouncing all over the place.
It's all good. It's mostly my fault. I just make these things up as we go along.
So, like I said, I'm a bit of a dilettante. The main sources of income that I have are around Amazon. Like we said, 75-25 with Amazon and e-commerce. I look at that as one big brand or one big business. So even though I have two brands, okay, the larger of the two that makes or earns all the income is the head honcho, and then the other brand is a subsidiary that falls underneath that brand. So those go together, and then they branch out. Each and every brand, the other subsidiary, has its own e-commerce platform. So not only do I run Google Ads and I grow it on there. I do special promotions, but that's kind of like a security. If something happens where there's a regulation or Amazon moves in or whatever happens, I can go ahead and I can funnel all of my residual business to my stores, and then I can continue to run Google AdWords, Facebook ads, etc. I don't really mess around too much with the stock market. Any of the stocks that I have are long-term investments, Google, Amazon, any mutual funds through my financial institution. That stuff just sits. I don't day trade. I don't do penny stocks. I don't do cryptocurrency. My main two things are Amazon and, the e-commerce, slides underneath that, and then real estate. So I'm pretty passionate about real estate. I do a lot of real estate. Like I said, last month, I closed on 2 houses. So those are, we're in the process of renovating both of those currently. So pretty much how I structure it, because I know people are going to ask this, is how I structure it is I pay myself a salary. So I pay myself $10K a month salary. All of the funds go back into the business to order new product, ads, etc. Any profits that are left after everything's recouped, all the overhead, the building space, the employees, everything's taken care of. Those profits funnel into real estate. Those are like my net profits, you would call it, okay? Once I purchase the real estate, I buy and sell currently, okay? Once I buy them, I fix them up, I renovate them, and then what happens is I initiate a 1031 exchange. So what a 1031 exchange is, for those of you that don't know, is in real estate, when you buy and sell, whether commercial or residential, you don't pay taxes until the 1031 exchange ends. So you don't pay taxes on your capital gains. So I just keep buying houses, fixing them, and selling them, and reinitiating 1031 exchanges. That way I don't pay profits, or excuse me, I don't pay taxes on the profits. Now, once you stop doing that, then you got to pay, capital gains taxes on all those houses down the road. But what it does is it allows you to build up a big snowball effect of capital.
So real estate is very interesting to me. I like a lot of entrepreneurs. I would like to get into real estate. It's a little bit harder for me to do out here in California, not impossible. But I recently spoke to a contractor friend of mine that owns a handcrafted, he makes custom houses for really, really rich people in this area. And he does stuff for himself also. And he brought up something with me, like he was asking me about, e-commerce and reselling. So I was talking to him, and eventually the conversation got to taxes, which it always happens, right? When you get a bunch of business people together, all of a sudden we're talking about taxes and stuff. And what he was saying that really interested me was that, because, when you're in the reselling business, whether it's private label or like what I do, or wholesale or whatever, all your unsold inventory is basically still cash, right? And so you still have to pay. A lot of people think, they're new to the game. They think that if they spend all their profit to buy inventory, that they don't have to pay any tax because they have no profit. Well, that's not true. You still have to pay tax on the money made in that year, whether it's invested into unsold inventory or not, because inventory is not an expense, it's an asset. And this is all correct, right, Josh?
Correct.
But with real estate, the property might be an asset, but the money that you spend to renovate the houses, those are expenses, right?
Correct.
So it is basically, you're like hiding your profits in the real estate expenses, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, it's if you know what I mean, like if you got to buy new walls and new paint and new floor or whatever, that's kind of like inventory for your e-commerce store. And then in the end, you have your whole store flush when you're ready to sell the house, except for a big chunk of that money is untaxable because it was expenses. So if you take $100,000 and then if you have $100,000 profit and you buy a house for $50,000 and then you spend $50,000 in renovating it, I think you're only liable for the original investment tax wise of the $50,000. The other $50,000 to renovate it would be expenses. And then when you sell it or whatever, then you pay tax on the difference, but you're cushioned with the expenses that you laid down.
Correct. Yes, you're cushioned with the amount of expenses from your contractors, material, time, efforts. The list goes long. And once you start accumulating more money and your business starts to grow, you really need to look at tax advantages. And, having a good CPA correspondence with a good accountant is necessary, and I've got burnt, it's hard to find one. It's really good to find somebody who knows their stuff. And I definitely recommend having them separate. So once you start to get multiple SKUs and you're doing multiple things, you want to have, keep track of your books. My wife does our books on QuickBooks. It's an online software. It's super easy to use. They got great customer support, YouTube videos, etc. So she pretty much keeps track of the books, imports everything from there, and then she hands it off to our accountant, and we utilize a CPA for
so the realty
tax
company is under a like, is that like you have everything nested under one LLC or S corp or something like that?
So the way it is now is there is an S corp, all right, the main S corp, and then underneath that is the two subsidiaries, which are the brands, and then real estate is a separate LLC. But the way I'd like to structure it, and I'm not a tax professional or anything like that, the way I'd like to structure it is under a holding company and have everything fall under the holding company. So that's what I've been doing is I've been taking the profit from Amazon, putting it into real estate, 1031ing it. That way I'm not paying the taxes and just growing the ball until I get the right guidance. And that's something I'm still focusing on is, because you look at Grant Cardone, everything, like he says, I don't own a house. The house I live in, a company owns that house and I rent from that company. If you see the Rolls Royce that I'm driving in, I'm leasing this vehicle and the company's paying for it. So you just got to know how to utilize tax advantages, to your benefit. Because once you get into the 30% plus, man, it's a pain, man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So like I'm definitely getting ripped right now. I need to get a much better CPA, and I need to get into realty because it just seems like it's a major key as far as negotiating your profits and your expenses. And why am I paying taxes on some money that I could expense it into renovating something, and then, I wouldn't have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is being able to know where to move it, where to park it. That way you can shield yourself. See, with real estate, there's a lot of large expenses. Then if you even go one step beyond, if you actually, you can own a construction company and subcontract out everything. So a lot of people won't catch that. So I'll say it again. You can own a construction company and subcontract out everything. So if you're taking profits from a business that's got high margins, 30% plus margins, you're moving it into real estate, you can even go a step and then 1031ing it, so you're shielding it. You can move it one step forward by having your own construction company and then sub it out to subcontractors. And maybe your company needs a $150,000 Kubota, okay, that sits for a year. The next year you sell it at a 5% loss, but actually it's tax deductible, so you're gaining. See, there's a lot of different ways to get into it. You just got to know, and you got to have the right person to show you.
Awesome, man. That's great. Can't wait till I can get into real estate. I think I need to start outsourcing personally myself. I need to start outsourcing stuff a lot more so that I can focus on doing the 2 or 3 things that actually grow the business and bring the dollars in versus all the other random stuff that I deal with, such as, making shipments when I should have a prep facility, just all kinds of stuff, because you're never going to grow your business if you keep, like in the beginning, you got to bootstrap, you got to be frugal, but at some point you have to shift your mentality going forward, or you're never going to be able to grow. You'll just hit a ceiling really quickly. And I think as entrepreneurs, it's easy to not rest on your laurels, but to just be like, okay, what I'm doing is working. Let's keep doing it. And then maybe, you're not resting on your laurels. You're going to pump that specific angle that's working for you. But I think it's important to try more stuff all the time, allocate a certain amount of your budget, not only to educating yourself, but to trying other stuff, which is education, so that you can learn, what might work, different ways you can do stuff, preserve your capital, not pay as much taxes, look into different avenues, hire some people, fire some people, just figure it all out.
All right. So if you don't mind, I seen a couple questions here. I kind of got off topic a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
let's do it. I'm looking for questions right now. I think I lost them.
Yeah, they were coming in so quick. I see this guy here. Let me see. Albido said, how do you estimate your shipping costs from China? And that's a great question, because that's something we didn't talk about. So there's a couple different ways to ship product from China. Usually if you go on DHgate, what's going to happen is a lot of the items are sent by express. That's why the items are going to be a little bit higher to source, because the manufacturer is going to take care of the shipping. A lot of times when you're sourcing from Alibaba, what happens is you are required to get the product. Once they manufacture it, you're required to get it stateside through customs and then get it stateside into their logistics. Now, you can operate and you can work this into the agreement, okay, as to having them ship it via FOB or take care of logistics. That's going to increase the price a little bit, but it takes a load off of you. A majority of all the shipments and all the producers, the manufacturers that I deal with, I use freight forwarders and I ship by sea. I do have a couple products that are very lightweight, like the other ones that I showed you, that I can get express, which I can get quicker within a week, and that's shipping by air. So you can ship by air, you can ship by sea. Obviously, shipping by sea is going to take a lot longer. It's going to take several weeks. And what you want to utilize when you're doing this is a freight forwarder. So a lot of people, they go on to Freightos if they don't, if they don't work with the company direct. And what Freightos is it's kind of like a website where you go and you get quotes from multiple different companies. It's FR, let me see if I can pull a thing up. FREIGHTOS. So www.freightos.com. And what it'll do is you can put, where the location is, the amount of the units, the kilograms, all of that your supplier gives you, and it'll get quotes from different companies. Or you can use direct. After you familiarize yourself with the process, then you can get a company, a freight forwarder that you deal with directly. So one of the ones that I use is Flexport, FLEXPORT.com. And you can utilize Flexport. Now, the cool thing about some of these freight forwarders are some of them have logistics centers or they have warehousing where actually you can do what I do. So let's just say that the MOQ to get the price point where you want to be is 1,000 and you go that route, okay? But you only want to ship 500 to Amazon to start with. You could do that and then they will hold it in their facility for a small fee.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool as well.
See any other questions there real quick?
Let's see here. While I'm scrolling, it's kind of relevant to that. While I'm scrolling and looking, in reference to the inspection company that we talked about earlier, the inspection company that I currently work with is AsiaInspections.com. It's definitely worth utilizing a inspection company if your first order is a large order and if it has a function or if it's an expensive product, if it's a complex product. But if you're ordering like a teddy bear where there's not much that can go wrong, you can actually contact the supplier and ask for photos, ask for different pictures of the actual product. That way you can see what's going on versus spending the $300. But if it's usually a first-time contact, before I release the additional 30% after the manufacturing process, I like to have the inspector go and take a look at everything, especially if it's something that has a function, if it's an electronic product, something that's used, etc.
Awesome. Someone was asking if you use viral launch to do your product. I think you discussed that earlier, right?
Yeah, so I don't utilize viral launch. I know a lot of people do. I guess they have a good service, so I'm not too familiar with it. I pretty much do my own launch. So I've got a YouTube video. It's called 5 Product Launch Strategies that you want to use. And basically what I cover in there is when I'm launching a product, the first thing is the product giveaway. That is going to that's going to spike the BSR. It's going to spike the algorithm. You're going to go ahead and gain momentum because it's going to show the algorithm that you're getting sales, even though it's giving away product. You're also going to get reviews, which is going to help build social proof. So a lot of people, where they make a mistake is they start their PPC campaign before they have reviews. And what happens is their ACOS percentage or their average cost of sale skyrockets and it becomes very unprofitable.
Right, because you're not going to convert as much.
Exactly. So that's 2 huge things is social proof in the beginning, getting those first initial reviews, and then gaining your ranking.
What is a good amount of reviews that you like to have? Our last interviewee, Matt, he stressed the point that he thinks a lot of people worry about reviews too much, whereas he thinks that the consumer, or at least his opinion, was that the difference between 0 reviews and 5 or 10 or 20 or 100 or whatever is a lot. But he's like, the difference between having 10 reviews and 100 is not as much.
Yeah, so it really depends on the type of product and the category. But what I recommend prior to starting a PPC campaign, the first initial thing that I do is I try to get reviews from friends or family, which is kind of TOS, but then it's kind of gray hat. It's not black hat, it's gray hat. I try to get reviews from friends and family. All right, a lot of people use review farms or different platforms where you discount product for reviews, which is more black hat. But once you get those first initial reviews, then I go into launching the PPC. So I like to see, me personally, before I start launching a product or doing a giveaway or PPC, I like to personally see 10 5-star reviews.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I heard in another interview, I forget who it was, but he maintains a nice email list of his customers from his other products. So when he launches a new product, he emails his existing customers and offers them a promo code. I don't know if he asks them for a review or not, but I'm just going to assume that they know the deal. He said he actually said he utilizes a physical. He will open up a like go to a flea market and offer products for cheap in exchange for reviews, like in physical from a flea market or whatever, and then builds up his list like that. But very important to have a list of people that can help you with that, whether it's your existing customers or your friends and family or whatever. And we're not going to shy away from the gray hat tactics around here. We're not going to I'm not going to write a book about it, and you'll probably never hear me talk too much about black hat stuff, but it doesn't mean I'm not doing it. It doesn't mean that people aren't doing it. It just means that that kind of stuff is, when you do stuff like that, whether it's gray hat or black hat, those are your own risks that you're taking, and you have to assess them and decide if it's worth it or not. And if you're doing the social media thing or the teaching thing, you're probably not going to teach that to people, because people like to follow advice verbatim. They don't, you're not making an analytical decision yourself.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of at your own risk, but a lot of people do it, and there's some things that are considered gray hat, and they're not really shady. It's kind of necessary to get to that certain level. And once the more products that you start to launch, and the nice thing, going back to the brand, you kind of see the theme of everything being around a brand, feeding off each other, is once you have a brand, you have residual customers. You offer support. You have a phone number, even if it's a Cricket phone number. So we have a Cricket phone number, which is an internet-based phone number that you can get. We pay $20 a month. We get a 1-800 number. That's what we utilize for our customer support. If you have a phone number, do you run
that yourself, or do you outsource that?
One of my employees handles that, and that might not be cost effective or efficient, when you're starting out. So what you can do is you can offer an email address. You can have a business email address, and you can answer them yourself, or have a VA in the Philippines do it for $350 an hour, and do that when you're starting out. But customer service is kind of a win-win. Number one, it's going to help your positive reviews. It's going to help you grow, but it's going to give you further opportunities to be able to launch products, because then you're capturing emails, et cetera. The same when you launch social media campaigns, you're going to have pixels. Once you capture pixels, and for people that don't know what pixels are, is when you're on Facebook and Instagram, they're owned by the same company. What happens is you can capture, each user has an identical or a pixel number that's unique to them. When you capture that, you can display ads to certain targeted groups. So when you do that, you can launch new products to people that that came to your page, like your page, maybe converted on a Shopify store, et cetera. So it makes it a lot easier and quicker to gain momentum and get reviews.
Right. So like if someone goes to your Instagram and then later they're on Facebook and they see an ad for the Joshua Crisp private label course, that's because they were pixeled.
Correct. More than likely, you can pixel people that have touched a certain page, or you can also advertise by certain criteria. So maybe you target people in a certain demographic that like Gary Vee, et cetera. So that's a 2-3 hour topic right there.
Yeah.
But that's something I like to do in correspondence with that. That's another reason why I like JumpSend. So I kind of talked about that. That's an email marketing platform that Greg Mercer developed, the founder of Jungle Scout. And what that is what happens when you purchase a product, you get an email confirmation. It says something like this: thanks for purchasing our product, blah, blah, blah. They get a second email once their product is shipped, and then they get a final email once they receive their product. And it'll say, hey, we've seen that you received your product. Let us know if it's everything you thought it was, or there was any issue, any discrepancy. You know, we're a small family-owned company, and we take our customer service, we take pride in our customer service, something like that. And what that's going to do is that's going to let the consumer know that you care about their thoughts and about them receiving value. And that's a tactic that I've utilized in the past and even currently to help my 5-star review go up. So that's definitely advantageous.
So you're still not getting their email address, right? Because it's all through Amazon.
So they stopped doing that. You used to be able to. Now everything's through Amazon. So they have a unique, kind of like Craigslist, you know, they have a unique generated email. And even they can opt out of it. So I would say, you know, to be transparent, probably 65 to 70%, which is high, opt out of receiving solicited emails through the platform. But that 35 to 30% of emails that go through is higher than hoping that you get a organic review. Because I know that, you know, as a seller, and all sellers know that it is very, very hard to obtain organic reviews. It's probably 1%.
Yeah, people basically don't have any interaction with the sale at all if they're happy. If they're unhappy, you sure as hell hear about it, right? That's why I like to tell people you need to learn how to turn a bad customer experience into a good customer experience, and that's literally how you can gain a customer for life, depending on how you handle that. Because happy customers just don't exist. Happy customers leave and they never come back. You know, maybe they come back, but you know, they just, you know, they're not vocal at all. But when they're unhappy, you know, very high percentage of unhappy customers are going to give you a chance to demonstrate your customer service skill. And if you handle that properly, you know, you could make a good relationship going forward. Here's a question. This is someone says they're stuck at finding a brand name for their brand. It's an office supply business. Any advice how you come up with a brand name? I'm assuming maybe you try to put a keyword or two into your brand name. How do you go about that?
So that's a great question from Zara. A lot of people ask me this, and that's going back to the overanalyzing. Believe it or not, when you're creating a brand, you can change your brand at any time. So I usually give the advice to just come up with something that makes sense. And if you can't think of something, use your last name or maybe something that you like, a color, something like that, something quick that you can come up with, because you can always go back and change it. It's not like you're signing for a trademark or you're creating an S Corp. You're just creating a brand. So you could always change that down the road. There's no Amazon SEO factors or anything like that. That's a misconception with that. People think if they stuff a keyword in there, it's going to help their ranking. It does not. It just basically lets them know the brand, which can be changed at any time in the edit section.
So that's interesting. You're saying A9 does not index the brand name for keywords.
No, not at all. A lot of people, you'll see, if you look through listings, you'll see a lot of people utilize their brand at the beginning of their title in the header, and they think that it's going to index in correspondence with their actual brand. So their brand is displayed at the end of the title. It's usually blue if you highlight it. It has nothing to do with the A9. Basically, what it is, if you were to do something like that, is it's to show a brand presence to try to deter hijackers or people that want to leech onto your listing.
Right. So do you have any trademarks or patents for any of your products?
Yeah, so I have my main brand. I have a trademark, and it's not patent pending, but it's trademarked, and a lot of my content on the page is copyrighted. The reason why you want to do this, once you hit it, I wouldn't focus on it when you're starting, but after you get 1 or 2 products underneath that brand that are successful, they're starting to generate revenue, it's advantageous to look into it, because you need this to unlock the brand registry. Once you start the brand registry, you're going to get access to enhanced content, which is going to convert ridiculously. It's basically like another set of photos, as well as access to HTML and anything. For people that don't know what HTML is, you know, you can bold letters, you can add additional pictures, all that cool stuff that really helps conversions. And that's just one part of the spectrum. Not only do you get all this awesome content, because believe it or not, people don't really read descriptions. You know, you see descriptions are 2-3 paragraphs. I know I don't read them, and people don't read them. So you want to put HTML in the description. But if you get a trademark and you unlock that enhanced brand content, then you can put pictures, you can put bullet points down there. It's just going to help out.
How do you access that stuff? Because I manage a couple clients and I have them brand registered, but we're not taking advantage of the enhanced content. Is that available through the edit product thing and inventory manager?
So everything has to be submitted for approval. You kind of submit it to them via case, and then they approve it, and then it comes up available. Same with AMS.
Okay, so it's something I could search for on Seller Central then, just like a little tutorial on how to submit enhanced brand content.
Absolutely, and a thing will pop up with bullets. It'll show you through the whole process. The other huge thing with enhanced content is you can get people immediately. You can get hijacker. It's pretty much hijacker proof. You know, hijackers can't come on there because you have a trademarked brand, and unless they have a written letter, an NDA or a written letter that they submit to Amazon, they'll get kicked off immediately.
Oh, you don't even have to report them or anything. It's automatic.
Usually I don't know how on the other person's, on the seller side, how it shows, but I know that it'll block them. If they try to get on there, it'll ask, hey, are you approved to sell this? If so, issue the documentation.
Right. And that's very funny to me as a seller that sells all kinds of random stuff. I notice when I sell an item and then when the actual manufacturer is also selling that item on Amazon, I like hold my breath because I know I'm about to get into a potential situation with the manufacturer because they don't like it when you jump on their listing and sell their product. Now, I specifically try not to undercut them. I either match their price or go above them, wait for them to go out of stock or whatever. But they'll always try and pull some dumb stuff. So they'll either hit you with a counterfeit claim, or they'll send you some nasty emails requesting you to not sell the product or whatever. When the reality is if they had brand registration, you know, they wouldn't have to do any of that. They could just get you kicked off, or you wouldn't be able to list it in the first place. And I did it myself, so it's like it's not hard. I know those companies have trademarks already. All you do is apply, then they send the legal agency that registered your trademark a confirmation code, and you put that back in, and within 48 hours, you're brand registered. So it must just be that a lot of companies don't understand how to become brand registered on Amazon's platform.
Yeah, and there's a huge barrier there because I think it's a lack of knowledge. Amazon doesn't really advertise it. It's kind of something that you have to stumble upon. And you know, a lot of big brands, you hit the nail on the head. A lot of big brands, you know, like GE, General Electric, Toro, Dirt Devil. A lot of these huge Fortune 500 companies don't know about the power of Amazon and the power of branding. That's why we mentioned about Will Tingelin. He's an Amazon seller. He was doing about 10 million a year private label when I started. And last time I checked, he's now a consultant for large brands. He doesn't even mainly focus on that anymore because that gap is huge. You know, you see a lot of these huge listings for General Electric or anything like that, and their listings horrible, and they're just not selling the way that they need to.
Right. I think that's one thing a lot of people underestimate is that once you understand Amazon's platform, you could become a consultant. I mean, you can be on different levels. Like, obviously, you know more than I do about managing a page, and the people that you spoke of probably know more than you do. But even myself, you know, it's amazing. People are like, wait, you sell on Amazon? And I'm like, yeah, you should sell on Amazon too. And they're like, well, how do I do that? And I'm like, dude, it's not that hard. You know, let's get you registered or whatever, you know. And I've helped a couple small companies in my area get brand registered and get their products moving on Amazon, create product pages and whatnot, you know. And you can make a few $1,000 or maybe even more, plus like ongoing consultation fees as an Amazon consultant. You know, you could literally just go door to door, knock on a business, say, hey, what's up, guys? I seen you have a store. You sell products. Do you sell online? Do you sell on Amazon? No. Why not? We don't know it. Well, you should, and I'm here to help you. You know, literally just, it's like free money. Make a business card. You're an Amazon consultant and go door to door and just start helping these businesses make more money. And it's zero risk for you. You don't have to invest any money. You just invest time. You're the expert. Get them in the game.
Absolutely. The possibilities are endless. You know, going back even with private labeling, wholesale, that as well as being a consultant for a company, the possibilities are endless. You know, there may be companies that manufacture different products, whatever it be, locally, wherever you live, where you could go and you can open up a wholesale account with them. They don't even know about Amazon. They're not selling on Amazon. Or you could go the other way if you want to. If you want to help them market, help them get on Amazon for a fee or consult for them, or you could gray label or white label products, get generic products from them, throw it onto your brand, get an NDA or a non-disclosure form signed from them, and then that's you're kind of set. So the
The best part I
possibilities are
like
endless.
about that situation, that scenario where you just listed those options, they were like, it was like if this or that or that or that, and it's like, hey, I'm here to help you. Let's get you on Amazon. We're not really interested in selling on Amazon. You should. We're not. Okay, well, let me buy your product and sell it. Oh, we don't want you selling our product on Amazon. Okay, well, let me buy a pallet of it and white label it, and then sell. Like, okay, cool. You'll put my logo on it, sure. There's just so
Yeah,
many different options, and they could all, one could lead to another. I mean, they're in business because they want to make money, right? So it's like once you figure out whatever they're comfortable with, you're going to be, just have to look at yourself as the solution to it. A lot of people think they still have this connotation in their head that making money is bad, or that if you're making money, someone else is losing money. You know what I mean? Which is not true at all. You just have to find wherever both parties are comfortable and then get to work. And that's where the success lies.
absolutely. So I see a question about the patent process since we're around that. The way that I check for patents is through Google Patents. So if you just type in Google Patents, you can go ahead and type in a product, and it'll show you any intellectual property as well as the dates, the functions, all that good stuff. And that's how you can kind of know if a product is patented, which is a super huge important part of product research, because if you find a killer product and it's patented, if you get on there and you start making sales, they can kick you off and Amazon will support it, and it'll happen very fast if they have the intellectual property. The second part to that question is, how do you start a patent? You would contact a lawyer that specializes in patents to start the process.
And a lot of people think that because they can order it on Alibaba or DHgate, that means it's okay for them to sell it on Amazon.
Absolutely. That's something you got to be careful with. If they'll sell you anything, they're concerned with the sale. You can get knockoff Gucci and Louis Vuitton. 9 times out of 10, it's scrapped from the facility where they manufacture for the main brand. That does not make it legal. So you definitely want to do your homework and make sure that you're not infringing on any intellectual property. You want to make sure that there's no patents. And you want to look for patent pending as well. You got to dig a little bit deeper to see if it's pending. But you definitely want to take a look for those things.
Yeah, it's crazy. Because I talk to a lot of sellers, and I was recently talking to some people about hot fourth quarter Christmas toys, and they're sending me a link from Alibaba. Like, look, I could get fingerlings, which is like this hot like robotic monkey toy, and they're like, I could get it for like $4 each, from Alibaba, 100. And I was like, dude, if you think that's legit, you have a problem. Like, you need to back it up a little bit. Like, it's not, you're not ready to invest your money with a overseas supplier if you think that's legit. You know what I mean? So I don't know what a lot of people think it's easier than it is, or they haven't done their homework, or maybe we're making it look too easy or whatever. But there is a few nuances you need to look into before you can just start throwing your money down.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to do your homework. And I think that there's a misconception because there's a lot of people that do shady stuff on eBay. I mean, you see fake Louis Vuitton purses, and now maybe I haven't been on there in a while. Maybe there's more restricted, but you used to be able to do more shady stuff like that on eBay. Amazon has a zero tolerance. If they catch you, they're just going to ban you.
Right. Let's talk about that real quick. Have you ever been suspended from Amazon?
I have not been suspended on Amazon.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. It's something that I try to play the TOS pretty close. I do have a couple different accounts, that's borderline gray hat. But you really have to do it premeditatively. You can't have the same social, you can't have the same address, the same state, same entity. A lot of people think that they can use the same information, just different company name, different entity, and get away with it. Amazon does not want you to have multiple accounts. It's against their TOS, even if
Right.
they're
Now they have
structured.
the ID verification program, which they didn't used to have.
Right. So it's something, you don't want to mess around, especially if it's making bank. A lot of people ask me that when they're starting out. Well, hey, I'm doing arbitrage or I'm selling books right now, so I start a new account for private label. I'm like, absolutely not. There's virtually the only reason why you would start, and that I recommend to people to start a new account, which is against TOS, is if you plan on building a brand on that account and then selling it. But if you plan on keeping your brand, keeping the equity and growing it, there's virtually no reason to start a new account.
And there is some scenarios where you can get a second account approved by Amazon, but like you said, there has to be a good reason. Maybe you're going into you're selling erotic products and you don't want that to be mixed in with your other brands or whatever, which is obviously understandable. But you have to ask Amazon, you know?
And I've had a few clients in the past get granted that access. One of the ones from my personal experience that works, if you're structuring a new company, like I mentioned, let's say that me and you go 50-50 on a new brand, we're going to get it to, let's say, 2 million in sales, and we're going to sell it. If we can show legal paperwork that the entity or the ownership of the account is not solely 100% on one person, it's split with separate individuals, and I'm currently selling on Amazon and I want this to be different, they will allow it.
Right. And that would obviously be an account that is registered to a legal entity, not to a person.
Correct.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. They just have their account registered to their sole proprietorship to their name. You can have your account transferred to your LLC, to your S corp, to your corporation, and then it will be in your corporation's name, not in your name.
Absolutely.
Um, let's see. If you do get kicked off of a, so let's say you have a product and you find out it's patented and they kick you off, are you likely to just get suspended or just have your ability to sell that product dropped?
Yeah, so if you're infringing on intellectual property, it's kind of in the person who owns the IP. They could choose to sue you. In my past experiences, they don't even go after it on Amazon unless it's a product that's making mid seven figures, eight figures. But if they choose to, number one, they can get you kicked off immediately by submitting the patent to Amazon, and number B, they could sue you if they wanted to. But I haven't had any in my experience.
Gustavo asks, how do you transfer your Amazon account to your LLC? That's in the tax settings, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so you just fill it out. I don't know exactly. I did it a while back, and then it takes a while for them to process it. If I remember correctly, um, it took me a few times. You guys, if you sell on Amazon, you know how it works. It's never easy with them. You're usually getting lower level support agents that don't know what you're trying to do, or they're just trying to pass you on. But just tell them what you're doing and apply for them, and make sure sometimes you got to like literally circle the information on the documents that you submit to them that they're supposed to look at, but then you get it transferred over to your legal entity, which is actually how you would sell, quote unquote, sell an Amazon account, because it's against terms of service to sell an Amazon account. But you can sell an entity that owns an Amazon account, and that's actually how you transfer ownership of an Amazon account without technically selling an Amazon account.
Right. Yeah, that's the loophole. For the person that asked that question, if you're a sole prop or a DBA, which stands for doing business as, and you want to change it into an entity classification, you would just go into the tax settings in your account, and you would change that EIN and then just resubmit the new name. Usually, you can get approval within 48 hours.
Nice. Let me see. I'm going to look here for a couple questions. Let's get in our last questions, guys, before we let Josh go, because we're running on the classic 2-hour show length that we always do. Once again, if you're listening to this on the podcast, we appreciate you. Please take a moment and give us a 5-star review on the podcast. It helps our show to rank better in the iTunes algorithm. And also, if you get some time, head over to YouTube and go and subscribe to Josh's channel. It's what's your channel name, Josh?
It's J for Joshua Crisp Marketing.
J Crisp Marketing. Also on Instagram at J Crisp Marketing. That's how you can find him. What's the best way for people to reach you, Josh?
So you can DM me through Instagram. My actual physical Gmail is actually JChris Marketing as well, the same as YouTube.
Awesome.
Instagram, it's all the same. So anyway,
Take note, guys. That's called brand consistency. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand that. You'll see them. I'll talk to them on one platform, and they'll hit me on another platform. And I'm like, man, you got a different name on Twitter than you do on Instagram, and a different picture. How do you expect me? You know how many people I talk to?
yeah, you know how to brand, man. We're trying to learn from you, man.
I figured it out on accident, man. Just follow Gary V. You'll figure it out. Let's see. what would you say are the top 3 aspects of your product listing?
Top 3 aspects of my product listing, in reference to what's most important, or a little bit more specific.
What's gonna I'm assuming they want to know what's gonna create sales.
All right, so that's cool. We can hit on that. So we have 2 aspects to that. We have the algorithm, and then we have social proof, like we kind of talked about. So the main components to your listing is going to be your title or your header, which is displayed in the search results next to your picture. That's the very top of the listing. You want to utilize this and make sure that it makes sense, but get as much keywords in there as possible. A lot of people think that the more times they stack a keyword, it's going to make that keyword, stronger, or make it show more predominant in the results or the SERPs. That's not true. You only need it once. Now, you want to have your most valuable keywords, or the keywords that have the most impressions. Impressions means the amount of times that it's searched. If you don't know how to do this or figure out which keywords are gold or the keywords that you want to use, I use a tool called LSI Graph. It's absolutely free, and what it's going to do is it's going to populate long tail keywords. And what long tail keywords are is more of phrases. So there's usually a noun or adjective before or afterwards. And you want to have these in correlation with your back end, like we talked about in the edit, as well as in your title. Then you're going to have your description. Your description is it's going to do is it's going to tell you about your product, the functions of your product. This is another area where you want to match your keywords. So you can kind of see the theme. You want to make sure that you have your keywords matched, but you're not over repetitive with your keywords, because it'll actually hurt you negatively in the A9 algorithm. Like I said, from my personal research, it's best to get an HTML description. What that does is you can add bold, you can add spaces, you can add lines. That way it's more legible. You can get this done on Fiverr for $5. It's Fiverr. We should all know about Fiverr, but you can get that done for $5. The last part where you can put text on a main page is going to be in your bullet points. Now, this is where a lot of people get confused and they want to stack more keywords, or maybe diversify with keywords. This is where you want to add value, and you really want to shine the light on the value that your product adds. Maybe yours is more durable. Maybe yours is bigger. Maybe yours is larger, less expensive, made in the US, where others are made overseas. This is where you really want to implement the differences and the value that your product adds, because this is the part that is below the fold. Now, when I say below the fold, when you go to a product page on Amazon, okay, on the right where your cursor is, where you can move the block down, that description and your title is the first text that you see. A lot of people, I would say probably 80–90% of people are going to purchase before they even scroll down, and they don't even read your description, because they have your picture, your title, your description, and then your price to the right where they can purchase. So you want to make sure that not only are those that they're on point, it's going to help with your conversions and your social proof, but it's also giving the algorithm what it needs. Something that's definitely underlooked and undervalued are your photos. A lot of people, even if it's not a non-complex product, they just get different angles and they think that's good enough. Or maybe they go on YouTube and they build a light box with cardboard and tissue paper, and they think because it looks good that they'll do fine. That's not good enough. What they want is they want a clear background, so a removed background, which if you don't know how to edit, you can get that done on Fiverr as well for $5. And you really want to utilize text, not in your main image because it's against TOS, but in your other images, you want to show maybe dimensions. Maybe you want to talk about more benefits. You want to make sure that they correspond with your description, or your bullet points. So if your bullet point says twice the size of competitors, half the price, you want to make sure that that corresponds. That way, if they don't read, they see. A lot of people are visual when it comes to Amazon.
That's a good point.
The pictures are super huge, because like I said, there's a certain percent of people that are going to convert once they find your product, whether it's through a sponsored ad or it's in the search results. That picture is going to be one of the reasons that they choose. Another reason is going to be your reviews. So you have your social proof. Once they click on it, what they see is usually going to entice them or shy them away from your product.
So you mentioned you get your photos done on Fiverr. Did you just get one person to do photos and they were the best in the world, or did you have to go through a few till you found a good one?
Yeah, so I usually recommend Fiverr. Currently, I use the VA that we talked about, and the website I use for the VA is Upwork, and you can find them on there. It takes a little bit more time. Same with Fiverr. You usually have to try a couple different people. You might get lucky and find somebody who you work with who has good quality. What I recommend for people when they're starting out is change the results by top rated seller and then look at their reviews. So I'll stay away from somebody that has 2 reviews versus 5 reviews. And you can use that for pretty much anything.
Awesome. Yeah, that's where I got my designers, is off of Fiverr. I tried Upwork, it wasn't working out for me, so I switched over to Fiverr, ran through 5 or 6 designers before I found a good one. And just when I thought, I was like, man, do these guys all suck? I found one that was 15 times better than any of the people I was at before for the same price, which is amazing. So they're out there, guys. Someone was asking about UPCs labeling your products. Where do you purchase your UPCs from?
This is a fantastic question. Amazon's TOS, and Amazon recommends using a service called GS1. It's a UPC label generator. They are astronomical. The pricing is crazy.
Yeah, what is it, like $700?
It's ridiculous for a bundle. Yeah, I haven't been on there for a while. I've been using Instant UPC. There's a couple different. I wouldn't use the ones off of eBay. You can use a couple different companies, Instant UPC or Buy UPC Now, or a couple that I've used. And we're talking about $1, $1.50, depending on the amount that you get. Where GS1, they're like 12 to $20 a piece, depending on the category. You have to get approval. It's just ridiculous. Amazon's TOS states that they want you to use it and that they're going to crack the whip. Knock on wood, they have not done that yet. If they do so, I believe that they're just going to pause your listing until that you've furnished that you've used the GS1. But I wouldn't be worried about it.
What about barcode UPC exemptions? Do you ever get those?
No, I have not had any of those in the past.
So I recently learned about those because one of the companies that I helped bring onto Amazon is a coffee company, and they don't have barcodes on their products. They roast their own coffee. And so they didn't like the idea when I was telling them about the GS1 barcodes. And so I looked into it, and apparently I found out you could ask for a barcode exemption. And you just submit it to Amazon, and within 48 hours or so, if they approve it, then you don't have to put barcodes on your products. So I don't know if that applies to other categories other than grocery, or if it's just grocery. I think it applies to more categories, but it's definitely something to look into for people that are curious.
Yeah, that's interesting. So they didn't generate or populate an FN SKU?
It did make an FN SKU. And so they do still put stickers on the products, but they didn't have to, like when I made the product detail and I got to the point of putting the UPC, and I was like, I would previously get a barcode from like Speedy Barcodes or something, a service like you were saying. And I just asked them, because I wasn't, my budget. I didn't have a budget for them. I just issued them a bill in the end or whatever. And I wanted to make sure everything was, when you're working with another company, you have to ask them, how do you want this? Do you want it to say and? Do you want to have an ampersand? Like all these little things, And so I asked them, and then they're like, well, we don't want to put barcodes on our stuff. And I was like, okay. Because, they sell their stuff in their cafe and on their own website. So they didn't want to have to modify their product just for one area of sale, right?
Absolutely.
And so I looked into it and did some research, and then there's a UPC exemption, and I think you have to reapply for it once every 12 months or something, but definitely worth looking into especially if you have a ton of products that you're trying to bring to the Amazon market that don't have UPCs already. Question, Jeremy Evans was asking, besides all the information that we've been going over, Josh does have a Amazon FBA or an Amazon private label product course that he sells. And he was curious, what kind of information do you go over in your course?
So the course is pretty much everything that I've learned from start to finish over the last 4 years. And everything in the course is in chronological order. So the first module being, how do you structure an entity? How do you create an entity? How do you start to do your taxes? How do you get everything set up, etc.? And the last section being social media advertising. So I pretty much go over everything. How do you find a profitable product that has demand but lack of supply? once you find that, how do you contact suppliers? How do you negotiate with suppliers? Once you do that, how do you get into the logistics aspect of it? How do you get it here, whether it be sea or whether it be air? Pretty much everything. How do you go ahead and do packaging solutions? Do you want to package it? Do you want to have the FN SKU on your product, or are they going to label it? Are you going to have your manufacturer label it? How to bundle, when to bundle, how to find out if a product is patent, how to find out if it's a trending product.
So basically, it's going to be everything you need to know based on everything that you know and are currently executing on in your business models. And it's going to be presented in a nice way, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so that you can follow it along, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. To
Right. So, because we all know that all that information is available to you. I mean, I'm sure Josh might have a couple gems that are like no one else has, or whatever. But for the most part, you don't have to buy someone's course, and you're not paying for the information as much as you're paying for the ease of access to it, because you can learn everything on the internet. We got the internet, we got YouTube, we got Google. Some people forgot about Google. It's still there. But it's going to take you so long to find everything, 1, 2, 3, 4, to get through it all. So your time is money, right? Like if you don't have any money, you definitely have time. So good. Don't buy someone's course. Go and find the information. But if you do have money, you might not have as much time as that person who doesn't have any money. So you want to accelerate your course, your learning, get a course. Like growing up as poor as I did, and I don't know about you, Josh, but I never learned that you could accelerate your success like that through buying into learning from another person. How much does your course cost, Josh?
Absolutely. So the course is $497.
Okay, so sorry to cut you off, but so $500, and now let's see if you could go back in time right now to the day you started and take your own course. How much more money do you think you would be making now, or how much faster do you think you would have succeeded?
And I think it would have amplified everything. The main thing, kind of like how you hit on with the course, is you could learn everything on your own, but it comes to the time factor. What it's going to do is it's going to make everything more simplific. It's going to accelerate the process. It's going to help you avoid potholes that maybe you wouldn't have seen because you don't know the process. And then you're going to have access to somebody along the way, because there's always something that pops up or some unique scenario that pops up. And sometimes just having that guidance and having that yay or nay from somebody who's in the field that's experienced makes everything a lot better.
Right. This is what I always tell people when we're talking about courses, because I talk to people a lot about personal branding and social media. Even my business partner, who's a day trader, who I've been, he's been day trading for maybe 4 years now, and he's pretty successful. I've been telling him, man, you need to write a book. And he's like, well, I don't know if I can write a book. And I'm like, look, dude, you've been doing this for 4 years. If you wrote everything you knew and then traveled back in time and handed that to your previous self 4 years ago, would it be worth $20? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, there you go, dude. You got a good product on your hands. And so would you buy your own course, Josh, if you went back in time? Would it be worth it?
Absolutely.
Exactly. And then that's all you need to know, guys.
Yeah, that's not even to try to sell it or anything. It's just that type of stuff didn't really exist. And if it did, it was astronomical. Like, I remember Ryan Morin's was $10K. Like, I was like, there's no way. How am I going to do this?
Yeah, there's so much stuff out there that's really expensive for that kind of stuff. And also, I'm not a tax expert, but I'm assuming that's an expense, an education expense, as far as tax liabilities go, right?
Absolutely. It's 100% deductible. Education and advertising are 100% deductible.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. That reminds me that recently I was talking to someone, and they were saying that they allocate 20% of their gross profit towards educating themselves in the niche that they're in and for other business opportunities, which is amazing. And now I understand why people go to business conferences so much. It's for the networking, it's for the learning. It's because it's 100% deductible,
Yeah, Tim Ferriss talks about e-learning. So does Gary Vaynerchuk. Everything in the future is going to go to e-learning. The only physical schools are going to be for dedicated professions like a surgeon or an astronaut, things that people are really passionate about, that they've been their whole life, that's necessary. Everything is going to go to e-learning.
Right. I have a 17-year-old daughter. She's a senior in high school, and I feel like she's pretty much the last generation of people that are going to go to college. And as much as I wouldn't want her to go to, I mean, obviously I want her to be successful or whatever, but at this stage, um, she's not demonstrating the entrepreneurial tendency so much. I think it's different, you know, how I grew up. I had to be a hustler, right? And that's why I got to where I am now. And she hasn't had to be a hustler. You know, her life is much more comfortable than mine. And so, you know, she'll go to college and we'll see what happens with that or whatever. Maybe she'll do good. Maybe she won't like it. Maybe she'll come back to me and say, teach me how to be a hustler. I don't know. But my 5-year-old, there's no way in hell she's going to college. Like you said, I think half the colleges that are around are going to be out of business by the time she's 18 years old.
So I've got a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I've got about 7 years for the one, and I've got about 14 years for the other. I'm hoping by the time they get at that point, my YouTube channel and my curriculums will be their curriculum. That's my goal.
Will be there what? Sorry, I lost you for a
That'll,
second.
that'll be their curriculum. I'm hoping if they're passionate about it, you know, you really can't force. That's a thing. A lot of like me and you and a lot of people in our age group and even, you know, a little bit older brought up on the core foundation, graduate high school, get a profession or get in the union and get a trade. And once you do that, buy a house, get a 30-year mortgage, get married. That's it. Refinance your house,
Part of the
put the
debt
kids
system.
through college. Yep, that's kind of the core concept that everybody was bought on. So, you know, my 9-year-old, I take them to all the projects when we buy houses. I take them to the bank. I go over everything with Amazon and try to teach them a little bit. And if it's something that they're passionate about and they like, then I'm hoping that my curriculum, my courses, and my YouTube video will be kind of like a little college for them.
That's awesome, man. A lot of people, because I homeschool my kid, and a lot of people ask me like, "How do you do it? What kind of curriculum do you subscribe to?" And I'm like, "Life." I just make everything as possible as a learning experience. You know, my kid, she's 5, and she's like, "I want these toys," and I'm like, "No, you don't. It's just marketing." And she's like, "They're marketing to me," and I'm like, "Yeah, they're marketing to you. Like, you don't even know what the toy is, and you want it." And she's like, "Oh yeah, they're marketing to me," you know, or um, I had some T-shirts printed for my brand, and we went and picked them up at the local screen printer. And while we were there, you know, I was like, "Hey, would you mind if we like walk around? Can we look at the equipment?" And they just gave us a tour. It was like a field trip, you know, and they showed us everything. And she had a good time learning how T-shirts were made, and you know how my friend has a small T-shirt manufacturing business, you know, so a lot of stuff is educational. I mean, it's not, let's face it, guys, it's not hard to teach your kids more than they're going to learn in the public school system. It's really not. Public school is like mostly just socializing, you know. I mean, some kids need to learn a lot more than others, but if your kid's decently smart, they're probably way ahead of the curve of public school.
Absolutely. They lack a lot. I think, I mean, yeah, it is good to know about history and all this stuff, but they lack a lot of common sense that will take you, you know, a long ways in life. Like I said, I only had 1 year of high school. And the reason why I think the direction, it just kind of proves the concept. My son's 3 years old, knows how to operate the iPad, the iPhone, the computer, and get to the YouTube channel and surf the net. And that's what he does. He stays on YouTube all day long, all night.
Yeah, my Luna too. She's like, "Dad, how do you spell Mickey Mouse?" And I'm like, "Just press the microphone thing. You don't have to know how to spell anymore." Like a lot of we worry about, you know, we're like, "Dang it, kids aren't writing cursive anymore." They're like, "Dude, they're not going to need cursive anymore. Oh, they're not typing anymore. They're not going to need keyboards anymore." You know, just like people disadvantage their kids because they hold them back, you know, like it's like I think Gary Vee said it before. It's like, "Dang it, you never go outside and play with the stick anymore. Like we don't need sticks anymore. We got iPads."
Yeah, that's the truth.
Uh
We didn't have that. I remember the Game Boy. Remember the fat Game Boy with Mario?
oh, the
That's
super fat one where when the sun started to set, you couldn't even see the screen anymore.
yeah, that's it.
I see one of your students in the chat here, Joshua O'Connell. He says he found a 6-figure product, nets him 10,000 per month. Let's talk about some of your students and some of the success that they've had and how that makes you feel as a teacher.
Yeah, that's awesome. The guy that you pointed out actually, he's an avid follower of you, and he sells resells books. That was his main thing on Amazon. Is he bought and resold books. You know, went to different estate sales, got almanacs and dictionaries, and he was turning big profits with them. And he got into private label, I want to say maybe 6, 7 weeks ago. and he's killing it. He's got one product and he's killing it. He just ran out of inventory because the thing's selling so fast. I think he was selling 50 units a day.
That's
We've
awesome.
had great student success. You know, the course has only been open about 16 weeks. And I didn't launch it to a big social media following. Kind of going back to what we talked about without diving back deep, I didn't have a social media following, and I kept everything I did in secrecy. You know, I wasn't huge with that, and I just started it. So I kind of launched, after I launched the course, I kind of started to develop and build my social media presence.
Right. There's no point in having a course if nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
So how many students have you had so far?
So we have close to 100 last time I checked. I was actually going to be closing it soon with Q4 being so crazy. And see, one of the things that differentiates me from a lot of the different guys that, you know, solicits their cars and sells with this different types of marketing is I work one-on-one with all the students. So if you ask any of the students, you know, personally off to the side, any questions that they have along the way or anything like that, any critiquing on their product, on their listing, maybe looking at a product or critiquing a product that they're interested in, I kind of dive in deep and hold their hand, look over their shoulders. You know, like I said, giving that extra yay or nay when you hit an obstacle is really boosts your confidence. And, you know, I talk about this a lot on my page too. Having goals and having milestones is huge with any type of success, even if you're off of Amazon. You know, having milestones and having goals is huge. And a lot of people don't understand the difference between a milestone and a goal. A milestone's a baby goal. And I talk about that a lot, about how when you set little milestones that build up to a goal, with each milestone that you achieve and you accomplish, it builds your confidence. The more confidence you have, the better you feel, the better you're going to do.
So do your students get one-on-one access with you via telephone calls, text messages? How do you work that?
So with the course, you get one-on-one coaching with me via email. We also have a mastermind Facebook group that's a closed group where all the students are in, and a lot of the members, where not only do the students participate and answer questions, but myself.
Awesome. Awesome. Super duper awesome. So, what I obviously don't sell private label. Besides signing up for your course, what should I do if I want to get into private label? What do I do tomorrow when I'm going to wake up? Tomorrow's my first day of starting private label. What do I do?
So that's going back to the process. Understand the process, learn the process, whether that be from listening to a bunch of podcasts, watching a bunch of videos, talking to somebody that you know that's currently in there, maybe a public figure or a friend, thoroughly learning and understanding the process, and then just diving in.
Just start jungle scouting products.
Yeah, that's the main thing. A lot of people don't want to buy Jungle Scout until they're ready, until they have the money saved up for a product.
Can you buy the Chrome extension still, or is it a subscription based?
So the web app is a subscription. It's $29.99, I believe. The Chrome extension is a one-time payment of $99.
That's basically free. The value on that is immense.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't do it without it. I mean, I'm sure I've checked some of the other ones, and I'm sure people use the other ones. No matter which software you use, if it's Unicorn Smasher, Ace and Inspector, whichever one you use, I recommend getting the software and diving into YouTube videos and podcasts. And when you're learning more, just start to apply it. Start to just fool around with research. If you find products, add them to your web tracker. Start to track them. Learn how to do the 999 cart method so you can see real time. Because what people don't understand is these softwares pull data off of AI, which is artificial intelligence, and they're generating estimates. Now, even though they're close estimates, they're not exact. So, you know, right. Find out how to do the 999 cart method, which is...
So the estimates that you're speaking of basically are like when Jungle Scouts makes sales estimates, those are just AI like outscalings based off the current rank and not necessarily the actual amount, correct?
Correct. So it's pulling all that data and it's generating, but it changes very frequently. Like the BSR changes, there's 24 ticks in a day. It changes every hour. So BSR fluctuates. Everything fluctuates. So it tries to populate it and give it as accurate as possible, but they are estimates.
So I've never used the web thing, but I know it can track products for you. And I know that, like you were saying, that's something you would do in the olden days. You would do the 999 trick today, tomorrow, the next day, keep track of it. But knowing what you just said about those numbers not being fully accurate, and of course I do other things on Amazon that are similar, it would make a lot of sense once you find a product that you think is a winner. You know, you don't just go in on it. You need to track it, whether it's manually or using the Jungle Scout web app to make sure that those are actually correct based on what it's telling you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Looks like we're wrapping up here, Josh. Before we go, I like to ask all the guests, who would you like to see me interview? Who could I interview that would provide value to your life?
So famous or just somebody in the industry, or what do you think?
Anybody that's within realm. I mean, I'm assuming, like some people have said Gary V, and I don't think that's impossible. I could get him on the show probably
I,
at some point, and obviously if I got Gary V, then I could probably get someone else. So I mean, within realm of possibility is better, but I mean, from unknown successful person who doesn't do social media to someone who maybe does a different e-commerce business model than you, or
okay.
anybody that you think is decently possible for me to interview at this stage of the show.
All right. So yeah, I think with persistence you could get Gary Vee. I think that'd be insane. He shouted you out a couple times. I'll give you one guy that's kind of semi-famous if you could get him. Andy Frisella. I love Andy Frisella. I love his
Oh, the
stuff.
MF CEO.
He's a beast. I love his stuff. I love his hustle. Of course, Russell Brunson. I love him. I think that would be insane. But to be honest, man, going back to Will, I think Will on Instagram, he's got under 1,000 followers. He's not on social media, but the
Will
guy
who?
is a monster. Will Tingerland.
How do you spell that?
I'm probably going to butcher it. It's like Tjurland, something like that. It should autofill. If you go on my followers and type it in, it should autofill. But he's a
Okay.
small guy. But I mean, when he was doing PL, he was doing 10 million a year. I paid 250 for a 20-minute consultation with him when I got started. Things started to gain traction, and he's a real humble guy, man. He was doing 10 million plus a year private label. Now he does consulting for large brands.
Yeah, I'll make sure and reach out to them on Instagram because that's one little marketing tip that you need to know. You need to leverage the platforms where you appear bigger than you are. A lot of people don't take Instagram seriously, even at this point of the game. And so there's literally YouTubers that have 1 million subscribers, but only have 6,000 Instagram followers. Now, do you think I should reach out to them on YouTube with my 22,000 subs and they have 1 million? Or I should hit them up on Instagram where I have 4 or 6 times as many followers as they do? Which one would be more likely to convert? So I'll make sure and send him a DM on Instagram and see if we can whip something up from that. Last thing we like to do here before we sign out, I like to give you the opportunity to ask the audience a question, and then I will put that question in the description. And when the video's done being live, people will respond to that question. So it's a chance for you to maybe get some information out of my audience or insight. You're not going to get thousands of replies. You'll probably get 10 or 20. And then you can jump into the comments and engage with my audience. So what's your question for the Reezy Ninjas?
All right. So one thing with private labeling, something I'd like to see some feedback on is you really don't want to reinvent the wheel, and you can't reinvent the wheel. Even though there's multiple different ways to do private labeling, it all comes back to the same information. There's a lot of people that talk about it. A lot of people do it. I'd really like to see what people want to know, or what type of information based around it outside of just the basics people want to hear. Is it more of the marketing? Is it more of social media marketing? Maybe influence marketing? What's something that people want to see from me? I just started. My YouTube channel is not that large, so I'd really like to get some good content. I do a little bit of everything, and I've got over 50 videos on there, so I really want to get some good content. How can I add more value to everybody in the community?
That's a great one, guys. So make sure that you let Josh know how he can add value to your life, what type of content he should create. If you're listening on the podcast, send him a DM on Instagram, jcrisp marketing. That's also his email, jcrispmarketing@gmail. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. If you guys are interested in taking Josh's private label course, there is a link in the description. You can click on that and it will take you to his page, sign up, and get to work. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you, Josh. I love having you on. I feel like I learned a lot. I hope we provided some value for the audience. If you guys appreciated this video, please smash the like button. And with that being said, we have a saying around here, Josh. You know what it is?
If you're not flipping, you're slipping.
All right, guys. Peace. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for having me, man.